Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour. It's been a little bit since I've done this, to which I apologize, but I hope to make it up with you guys with a very good guest today. I have a writer, YouTuber, and overall pretty chill guy. Jason Fuhrman, how you doing, sir?
Hey, man. Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, just trying to fill a little bit of stuff.
No, it's all right. Yeah, I found your, YouTube channel because I got those across the river from Christopher Gilman. I have it over here, and I'm a big fan of werewolves, and I'm like, oh, okay, because I like to get in the mood when I read stuff. I found that I like to prepare myself, if you will. I like to watch reviews to get me, I don't know, just get me in the mood to read it. And that's how I found your videos.
Okay, so you found the read-along video or the review video?
I think I found the review first, and then I saw the read-along. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Okay.
I might do that, I might actually do that while I'm reading it, because, in October I just kind of binge horror books, and I try to watch movies. My movie watching has been horrible this year. But, yeah, I found you from those across the river, so...
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah, that was actually a book that I had never heard about. And I always ask what they want to read, and then we vote on. And that was something that I believe it was somebody in the comment section of one of the videos requested that one. That was one of the picks, and then it got voted on. I mean, I was pretty stoked to read it too. It didn't quite turn out the way I would have hoped, but
yeah,
they don't always.
Oh. Oh, were you saying something? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no worries. I just said.
It kind of sounded like you were cutting out a little bit.
Oh, I said that I didn't like the way it turned out.
I see. Yeah, I remember we kind of disagreed about that because I'm on your Discord.
Yeah.
I didn't love the ending. I'll agree with you on that because it just kind of happens. Also,
yeah.
Spoilers for those across the river, for those who haven't read it. He basically just gets his old war buddies, shoots some werewolves, and then he just kind of fucks off and lives in regret for the rest of his life. I'm like...
Yeah, he fails.
I'm like...
Okay, I guess.
Alright.
Yeah. And I've read a few of his books already. So I've read The Black Thief, Those Across the River, obviously. What was the other one? Did I read it?
I saw you review another one.
Between Two Fires.
I was about to say, I thought it was like the medieval one.
Yeah. The one that was kind of the most highly recommended book of his. And again, I've noticed a commonality books that he's a great writer. Like I said, he's a great line-by-line writer. He has a good way of like crafting sort of atmosphere, dialogue and stuff, but they kind of peter out at the end. It's almost as if he doesn't quite know how to just take it home.
He has the Stephen King problem. He doesn't know how to end
it. Yeah. And then with The Black Tongue Thief, that was a fantasy novel, and he seemed a little too enamored with his own voice and character. I don't mean voice as in like literal voice, but like the voice of the character. Because it was all first person, and he was kind of this wisecrack thief. And he just seemed to be very enamored with the wordsmith, I guess. It's great. I mean, it's great from that standpoint. But as like a story goes and all that, and honestly, I found like the character to hire some. Because you know what I mean? Like, as a writer, you're always who is the POV character, right? Or who are the POV character? Because you can literally tell the story a million different ways, right? Depending on who it's from. And with him, he chose a character which I would argue is probably character. not the voice of Ori. And it really got me thinking because and I think a lot of people like it, but that's what really got on my nerves. Just the character's voice kind of got old after. Like when it started off, you're like, oh, okay, he's kind of a cool wisecracking, morally gray thief character. But then when the entire book is written in that voice, because it's all first person, the entire book is written in that voice, it gets tiresome, it gets a little bit old.
Yeah.
That's actually what did it in.
Yeah, I started the Black Tongue Thief because I was like, I'm like, all right, I'll start it. I heard it was really good, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm in the right like mood to read it, so I put it up, and also it kind of seemed it almost seemed like he was aping Joe Abercrombie a bit, because I'm like, okay, this is. I'm like, I'll start this later. I'll put it that way. I'm like, I'll start this later, and I don't know if I'm in the proper mood to read it right now. I don't think I can think and read it fairly.
Yeah. I mean, I could see the Joe Abercrombie. It is labeled as grimdark, but I don't know. Joe Abercrombie has a vibe. It feels a lot more grounded and more realistic, whereas Christopher Buehlman in this one really leaned into the fantastical elements, like the big goblin war. There's these magic is far more prevalent, not like Gardens of the Moon or anything like that, but it's, I don't know, it felt more fantasy, whereas Joe Abercrombie's feels more like like a medieval setting, but with fantasy element. So it's more grounded, it's more low fantasy, whereas it felt a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, Those Across the River, I love the atmosphere of that book. I love how he describes the town. And, I mean, also I have an interest in Civil War history, so,
okay.
That was interesting. And I really like the historical setting, and there are some really good like the one I remember is when he encounters that kid in the forest. It's really that is really well done. Like
that was fantastic.
Like I was genuinely creeped out. And I'm like, that doesn't happen a lot. Good job, Christopher Buehlman. But then it's like, when he I also like the Chekhov's cannon, as I call it. When I read that book, when I was reading it, and he's like, "Oh, I got this cannon. This is from my like great grandfather." I'm like, "This motherfucker's gonna use it, isn't he?"
Yeah. I said that. I remember in the read-along too. Because I did bring up Chekhov's. Sure enough.
Yeah, no,
it's. What happened. No, at least he saw it through.
Yeah, no, that would have been just like, why the hell did you have it if you weren't gonna use it? But but yeah, just I didn't love. The only thing I didn't love was the ending. It was just like, what the fuck? Like.
Yeah, I think for me, so yeah, like you said, I love the setup. I love the scene with the boy. That was the first moment of horror in the entire novel, and the best moment of horror in the entire novel. Fortunately, first time. And then for me, what kind of it fell apart as well is the big bad. Right, we went to we discovered who Those Across the River are, and we got to meet this person. They felt like just a cardboard cutout villain. There was no nuance to it. There was nothing, which I love the historical aspect to it. Well, right?
Yeah, I liked it thematically. Just like werewolves is like a metaphor for like the trauma of slavery. I thought that was really interesting. Now, did he, what's the term I'm looking for? Did he go through with it? I don't know, but it's just like he gets like his badass crazy friends, and then they just start shooting some werewolves, and then he just fucks off because he's like, oh, I lost my wife. Fuck this. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And then
it
I'm
was
just
weird. It felt like a bunch of. Honestly, it felt like 2 different novels, at least 2 different. It was odd shift.
Yeah, no, it's like, look, I love me some great werewolf battles, but it's like, I don't know. I think it could have ended better, really. It's that Stephen King issue. It's like, great setup, Really liked what he was going for, but the ending just some problems I have.
Yeah, and Cranmer, he showed up. Yeah, you remember that guy, the old guy?
Yeah, no, I liked him quite a bit. I liked the reveal with his character. I
he was great.
Yeah, again, I like the atmosphere, and I like the what do you call it? Like the local myths. It's like what's across the river? It's like you don't. It's like I love that type of shit in movies or in books when they're like, oh, what's across that river over there? He's like, you don't go that way. He's like, why?
Yeah.
Don't. He's like, oh, well, okay. I don't know why. I love it.
Have you seen Dog Soldiers?
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably one better.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I mean, there are some bits in that movie that look a little dated, like definitely look like people in suits in those the werewolf costumes. But aside from that, I really enjoyed it. I think it's well done.
Yeah, I enjoyed the design of the werewolf too. And yeah, it's an older movie, so polished.
No, I mean, I try to cut it some slack. I mean, I get they didn't have, all the money to do it, but they didn't have Rick Baker along. But it's still a good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I found your channel. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna watch your read-alongs while I read the chapters.
Cool. Yeah, it's a format that actually somebody subscribers. So yes, because I guess there's other channels that do it.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask you what inspired you to do that because I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, well, I would like to say it was my idea, but it was. But I was asking for feedback on my Discord. Hey, what kind of videos you guys want to see? Somebody mentioned read along. I obviously have my own way of doing it. I watched, kind of scrubbed through a couple, and most of them are just kind of summaries of things, or like just off the cuff talking about it. Whereas I wanted to do it a little bit more closely. Like I wanted to share the screen, show the text, create highlights, things that I found interesting. So hopefully other people come around of it. So I wouldn't say it's quite like there's some book titles out there too that are like crazy depth. Benjamin McAvoy is another one I can think of who's like, he went to Oxford. He's crazy into literature and stuff. I'm not doing that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about what I thought was cool and maybe reading into the text. What they meant. If there's anything below it. So I did. It's funny though. I got a copyright strike. Gardens. So I had to blur out all of the text. The published.
Yeah, I know. I remember. Yeah. I was kind of glancing at it because I'm like, with Malazan, that I have a buddy named Tig. He's a British guy. He's like, bro, Malazan, that's where it's at. And I'm all like, I don't know. I always drag my feet on these sort of things. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of other books I'm wanting to read right now. It's like, and I don't tend to read a lot of like big, 10-book type of series type of thing. There are people I know and respect who do that, and like that's great. Go do that. But it's like I mostly stick to trilogies. Now I do have exceptions. I mean, if the story keeps my interest, then fine, I'll read a multi-book series. But I tend to stick to trilogies and standalones because
it's rare that any property will capture, and even some 3 books. Yeah, I can't. I'm trying to think if I've ever read series beyond. I mean, I've read all of Joe Abercrombie's books except his latest trilogy. Well, and I didn't read the young adult one, but still, it's a trilogy, right? Law.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, to me, it kind of stems from my TV, right? So TV. Everybody loves TV. Like my interest. I feel like I'm always in the party. So with TV, I would love to love TV. There's plenty of TV shows out there I do love, but they inevitably fall into the trap of not enough story for the episode. And they kind of they're milking this concept until people are bored of it. Like 5 seasons, 8 seasons, however many it is. the story's not this long. You guys need to end it. Or sometimes even one season has too many episodes. And you're like, well, you're killing the story for me. It's more of a, oh, hey, the public, the public taste demands episodes. Therefore, it has absolutely nothing with how long is the story we're trying. It's unfortunate because you end up with a lot of these things that could have been great and get involved.
Yeah, they kind of trail off.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's there are shows even that I love, like the X-Files, that have done that. So I mean, you know, it happens.
I grew up on.
Though to be honest, I like the standalone episodes of the X-Files more. I just find they're more creative and just fun. They're just like, all right, let's just do some weird ideas. We'll just play with it.
Yeah.
You know,
it was a cool kind of monster of the week kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Back to my friend Tig. He's for some reason he loves the wacky conspiracy stuff, and I'm like, you know, more power to you, but I like the standalones more. They're just more fun for me. The more memorable episodes come from the standalones, in my opinion.
Yeah, which is why I have obviously movies, but a miniseries where you a handful of episodes because you need more time to tell the story in 2 hours. So they take a little bit longer, but it's done at the end. There's no season 2. They just told a longer form story. I'm liking that format a lot, although I think a lot of people like it. People just have this weird, you know, the mainstream way. They just want stuff to never. Like a buddy of mine, he's a massive Star Wars. I mean, I grew up on Star Wars too. Loved it, but then it kind of got dragged through the mud over and over and over again, and now I'm just kind of different. Whatever, I don't even care about it. And he's like just so into it that he, you know, as long as it's Star Wars, he'll more or less be okay with it. I mean, he's been a little bit more critical with some later stuff that they've been doing with Disney Plus, but yeah, it's just like these people want to. He's also infatuated with Indiana Jones and so super excited about the movie coming out. Dudes, you gotta stop clinging on to these old franchises, and I mean, just move on.
Yeah.
I think still enjoy them, but
no, I mean, I kind of have that same problem. I mean, I do love I love Star Wars myself. I try to find any excuse to talk about Star Wars, but I try to be more. I try to be more like, okay, am I going to be interested in this? And probably not. And I don't usually watch it. Now I watched Andor because I'm like, I'll give it a try, and that actually really surprised me. But I kind of just stick to like the Clone Wars and the original movies, and that's about it. Though I do have a soft spot for the prequels. I grew up in that era, so even though they're not good movies, like just you know.
I remember I was 20, so I saw that. Being a massive Star Wars fan, like I grew up. Like when Return of the Jedi came out, I think I was about 4 years old.
Oh my gosh!
So I grew up. Yeah, I grew up. I actually saw it in the theater. I remember.
Oh yeah. Wow, that's.
But it was cool, and my you know, I collected all the figures. I was really into Star Wars for a long way. Came back with the prequel, super excited. I remember seeing it on opening night and being like, wow, that was so great. And then you start thinking about, you know, the Star Wars. The nostalgia kind of fades away. And then what is left is sort of, like the story. And you start thinking about it, wait a minute. That was a shitty movie.
No.
And then, you know, we know what happens after that.
And it's like, what the hell does the Phantom Menace even mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. And so I guess for me, I guess the difference between me and a lot of people, especially buddy who, you know, around, I've been able to let go, right? Mm-hmm. I've been able to let go and not cling to this. Like, I still enjoy the original trilogy. Mm-hmm. I still enjoy, like, what Star Wars was when I grew up with it. Mm-hmm. Then I've been able to detach that from what is Star Wars. And so I wouldn't say that, like, I hate Star Wars. I still enjoy what it used to be, what I knew it to be.
Yeah, it's not your Star Wars anymore.
Yeah, it's just a completely different marketing beast. I mean, I know the first one was all about marketing toys there, but
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean yeah, I actually was having a similar conversation with a friend of mine a while back about Star Trek, and he's just like, yeah, it's not really my Star Trek anymore, and that's fine. I'm like, yeah, you know, it's or
yeah, things evolve.
Yeah, or I grew up watching Batman the animated series and Justice League and all that. I still do enjoy those very quality animated stuff, but yeah, just I get that. Though I do wish that the DC live action movies would take a note from them, but I digress.
Hey, they're getting rebooted, right? James taking the starting again with a new cast.
Yeah, I don't want to get too ranty. I just shake my head at it.
Yeah, I think I guess my biggest gripe with superhero stuff is that they won't just move on. Like they got to keep reinventing Batman, Spider, whoever it is. Like, why can't you guys just create new character, create new hero, do something unique, and rather than and it's just what they're doing with Star Wars. It's what they're doing. Jones is doing all these things where they're diluting these properties to absurdity. It's too bad because we're watching thing crash and burn side. It's like people have forgotten how to tell a story.
Yeah, that's kind of. I feel like. I mean, I don't want to talk too much about movies because I already have a podcast about that. But I do feel like Hollywood is in a bit of a rut right now. They're not really sure what to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are bright spots like the MCU, but for at least in my opinion. But I mean, even that is, I'm starting to fear it might be losing its spark a bit. So it's like, well, what are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
No, we had the MCU, this just great, beautiful thing, and now I mean they're just kind of. I mean, there's still some good stuff, I mean, but I just feels like it's losing its spark,
Yeah, I mean, you can only, I don't know, I feel like they want to keep origin stories over and over again. I mean, it's got to end, man. Move on.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, should they have ended after Endgame? I mean, it would have been a good place to end it, but I digress.
Money.
Yeah, money. I mean, I will say that the MCU is more like soul than like other, franchises out there. But I don't know how much of a compliment that would be. There's some people like, well, that's not saying much. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. And it's just like, God. So many people complaining nowadays. Like, I don't know why people can't enjoy a good thing while we have it.
Yeah.
Like, I've started getting sick of guys like the Critical Drinker because they're just bashing shit all the time.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, though, is speaking for my biggest videos, quitting series, where I, like, pick up a book and then I'm like, this, but I decided about why.
Yeah,
people love that shit, dude. They love negativity. Guys got subscribers, so.
No, I mean, I get the appeal of. I mean, it can be fun to tear apart a bad book, or a bad movie or whatever, but I'm starting to get kind of. It's not fun anymore for me.
Yeah. I try to be constructive with it. I don't want to be. It is kind of clickbaity and quick video of it. Obviously.
Yeah, no, it was just like I quit Gardens of the Moon. Like, shit.
Yeah, it's funny. I just made that as like it's like, hey, I should probably make this because I quit the read-along. People check it. So more or less, I didn't expect it to blow up. Like, I guess I failed to realize how big of a that. But yeah, Critical Drinker, I totally get you. I don't watch. Funny thing is, he he likes stuff. Really, dude? He likes some pretty bad stuff too. He's always in. Because I would say, for the most part, I agree with his. But there's some things in there that he enjoys them. Okay. I saw a different show that.
No, I mean, I like some of Critical Drinker's videos. His, the Doctor of Island, or the Island of Dr. Moreau video is still quite, I really enjoy that video. And there, there's some of his critiques that I think are really, he's not stupid, or he's not, he's not just screeching at the movie like some other, people of his ilk. Like he has fair criticism, but it's just like, I've just kind of grown weary of him just bad, literally every single video I see of him, he just doesn't like something. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, why don't you talk about things that you do like? And he does from time to time, but it's just, I've just kind of grown sick of it.
Yeah, that's why I picked up his book, Dark Harvest. I'm always curious when I discover people who write a critic or whatever. I always like to see what they've worked. I haven't got to it yet.
Yeah, I'm curious about his books as well, though. I am kind of weary of his. I am wary of his spy novels, whatever the hell they were.
Yeah, that's why I didn't pick those up. Yeah, he's got
because I'm like,
came out with this.
I'm like, this looks like the most Tom Clancy type of thing. I don't know if I want to. I mean, I do like some spy stuff, but I'm a big James Bond fan. And I love the Bourne movies from the 2000s. But
yeah.
Sorry about that. Someone. Oh, did I cut out?
Yeah.
I was just saying, I do like the Bourne movies and, James Bond, but aside from that, a lot of them are just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of supposed to, but...
Yeah, no, yeah.
The new James Bond, they've become more grounded, they've tried to give him, character arc, so they're changing a bit, but, the original crazy style.
Oh, no, I enjoy the original Bond stuff. It's, I don't know. We were talking about me being sick of people just bashing stuff, so I've just stopped watching them, and we're like, oh yeah, this is stuff I don't like. So, what made you want to start your channel?
So, the way I started my channel was a series called Worth 1,000 Words. So I got this, it was the middle of the pandemic or thereabouts, and I was like, man, everybody's doing YouTube. Maybe I should try YouTube for the hell of it. But I didn't want it to just be a wasted effort, right? Me, making random videos, and I said, well, what if I couple it with, I had this idea where I've always liked artwork. So I used to draw a lot. I'm really into just the arts in general. And I had this idea where, hey, what if I get a piece of concept art, write a short story of exactly 1,000 words, and on the spot, right? So no outline, no pre-thought, just pull up the artwork and go. And so that was my first video, and it turned out to be a series that lasted about 2 years. I wrote about 104 short stories. And, so that's where it started. It kind of started as me just saying, hey, what if maybe this is an excuse for me to write or try something different. Because I was kind of unhappy with my writing. And so I said, what if I create a series out of it? So that's started. And then it eventually shifted into reviewing things. I always did those once. Then I also had book reviews, and occasionally I'll do a movie review if I feel like it's worth it. But that's always a bad idea, it seems like, because, people will watch a movie review. I start talking about books. Gosh. But, yeah, that was kind of the impetus of it. And I didn't do a review for a while. I haven't reviewed video games, or at least one video game.
Yeah, I saw your The Batman review, and I saw your Northman review. In terms of movies.
I feel like I was one of the few people that didn't
Yeah, no, I mean...
I love the director. I really wanted to like it. I love the setting. But man, I saw that in theater, and did I just...
I didn't think it was horrible. But it wasn't as good as The Witch or The Lighthouse, which are his other two movies.
Right, that's kind of what I think killed it for me. What I know he's capable of. And then I remember it wasn't an A24 production, so okay.
Though
maybe he's moving into the, bigger budget territory and using the studios. Yeah, it just, I don't know. A lot of people loved it, but yeah.
Like, it's still well made. I enjoy it, but there was some stuff I was like...
made, but it's... again, because I'm a writer, I'm always into the storytelling. Not necessarily like the plot itself, but character. Do I care about them? Do I want to follow them? Do I want to see them succeed or fail or whatever it is? Mm-hmm. And it just missed... It was absent of so many crucial things that it went from him being a kid and then boom, he's an adult. We don't know how he got there. That's why I used the Conan the Barbarian comparison, because actually, it's funny. I didn't even think about that. I'm a huge Conan the Barbarian fan.
Are you talking about the movie? Have you read the original stories, or are you just talking about the movie?
Yeah, some of the stories. I haven't read all of his works, but I read. But my first exposure to the franchise with the Arnold Schwarzenegger too. But
that's a good
it's
movie.
Funny because Robert Eggers said that in interviews. I watched him. Man, I watched, because I think he's around my age too. He's like, I watched so much Conan the Barbarian as a kid, so I'm sure there's a lot of influence there. And he kind of picked some things out. And then once he said that, I started thinking about the movie, because I've seen Conan a lot, so I knew the plot really well. And I was like, holy shit, there's like a lot of parallels. The problem is, every parallel he used was a shittier version of what was Conan. And I'm like, wow, you made an homage to this movie and completely blew it.
No,
so
I mean...
I
always, every time I think of the Conan the Barbarian movie, I always think of when James Earl Jones turns into a snake during that, orgy scene.
I saw it again recently, so there's a 40th anniversary.
It's so good.
And saw it in the theater, and I'm like, such classic sword and sorcery. Like, the funny thing about that movie, though, is storytelling-wise, it's pretty sharp. Like, if you really pay attention to his progression, character, and what he is, it's actually well written. I mean, there's some cheesy lines of dialogue and great, but if you look at it from beginning to end, and see what he goes through, the way the plots develop, the way the characters grow, it's actually really well written. And I think that's a huge issue I have, is that was a mainstream popcorn flick, and even then, back in the 80s and stuff, I felt like people were thinking about stories crucially than they are now. Now it's like a different... So you see all these very empty mainstream films. In fact, E.T. was made, Conan, Star Wars, all these films that have good underpinnings of storytelling. Back then, now you see these blockbusters. These are completely empty. There's nothing. It's sad because, I love storytelling and all of it, writing, the film. Love it. Obsessed with it. Saddens me to see that decline for the...
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to bring the critical drinker back into this, but that is one thing I think he is right on, is that Hollywood isn't so focused on good storytelling at the moment.
Yeah,
with some exceptions.
It's turned into politics and demographics. They'll say, hey, this is the age group that goes sees our movies. This is what they want, or they'll jump on a trend blindly. And I don't know. I guess because we have so much more in terms of what people watch, why they like it, they think they need to craft these through that lens. It's even comic books. Novels, of course. I'm just glad that there's still people out there who feel like they're becoming fewer and fewer, but there's still there.
Oh yeah, you just have to look more.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I stand to with independent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I can take more risks.
Yeah, no, I like A24 in terms of like movies because, I mean, as much as I enjoy stuff like the MCU, I do enjoy like engaging with a movie.
Yeah.
Not to say that the MCU doesn't do that, but you know, I think A24 takes itself more seriously. I might say.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I saw.
You like.
I mean, then again, I did see Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is a film about a woman who is suffraging through that's probably not a word, but she's going through, she's trying to figure out the meaning of life while trying to stop a cosmic horror bagel. Yeah. Now if I were just watching this as a more cynical moviegoer, I would probably laugh that out of the theater. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. It was a fun movie.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was a fun movie. Like, it was actually saying something.
It had the it wasn't just to be quote unquote fun. It was they were trying to tell a story that had, which I feel like that's the biggest that's missing from a lot of stuff, is that they have the spectacle, right? Have all that stuff, but it's kind of empty, right? And you kind of leave it wondering, like, well, why? What was lacking? Why am I not feeling? Because I think, you know, as consumers, we all love stories, right? Regardless of if you're a writer or a reader or a watcher or whatever. We're hardwired for it. We're a species that loves. So it's kind of funny where you have this intuitive thing where you know if something doesn't work, or a lot of people you can't really. I mean, I couldn't really articulate it until I started really digging in storytelling crap. So
yeah, no.
And that's part of the reason why I do YouTube too. Is I like to figure out why I liked, not just like, oh, I didn't like it. I don't know. A lot of people say that.
Yeah,
no. Why? Like, you gotta. Yeah, I think it's important to know why. And I know most people don't give a shit at writers, but for me, it helps me understand what I don't like or what I do like, and then to approach that with my.
Yeah, no, I like to go see movies with my dad, so we'll go see a movie, and then we'll walk out of the movie, and he'll just ask, "What did you think of it?" And you know me, I tend to overthink stuff, so I just kind of sit there and have like a mini nervous breakdown for a couple of minutes, and then I'll just say, "It was fine," or you know whatever I thought. Just the most like cliche thing I could say, like I liked it or whatever.
Yeah. You don't want to disappoint him or what?
Yeah, but you know, we don't. Me and my dad don't operate on the same like wavelengths, so I don't always, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna go like, well, I don't love how he did this, or how the characters were just they just felt kind of flat, and you'll be like, what the hell does that mean? They were just dumb. And I'm like, oh, okay. You know, and like I remember when the only time I made an exception was we saw. Cutting back to this odd conversation of Star Wars, I had just seen The Rise of Skywalker, which is an abomination that makes Attack of the Clones look like a decent movie. Though I would say Attack of the Clones is the worst one out of all of them. But just like, you know, speaking objectively. But
yeah.
When I walked out of that movie, I just unloaded because I couldn't hold back what I was so mad. I couldn't hold back what I was feeling. And I'm like, this movie is so bad, you know. And then, you know,
yeah,
God. But you know, aside from that, I try to like, you know, because I like to sit on things for a while before I go. This is what I thought about it, you know.
Yeah,
I do that with books.
You gotta let it fester a little.
Yeah, I saw you did a Like, I should probably ask this. What's been your favorite, like, book that you've done a read-through of? That you've done the, what do you call it? The read...
Oh, the read-along?
Yeah, the read-along.
Things?
Yeah.
Ooh, my favorite book.
At least so
I
far.
would say probably Knockham's Death.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, it was kind of a... it was a bunch of stories, right? So it was like an anthology. Where there were these kind of interconnected stories to a degree, but they weren't. So I guess why I enjoyed that, I really enjoyed The Road too, but The Road was more of a single story throughout, and so it's a little bit of great about that. You got to take stories chunk by chunk, right? So where there was easier to talk about and format, because when you're reading a novel from beginning to end, if you're on page 100, you're going to have a different opinion on what you're reading right now than at the end of the whole thing. So, I love The Road as well.
Oh, yeah, I didn't do, I did kind of follow that read along, but I'm like, man, I've read that book a couple of times, like, I know, and I have friends who don't like it, and they're just like, oh, man, it's like, oh, why did this win the Pulitzer Prize? And I'm like, yeah, whatever.
I can see why, but
no, I mean I can see why it's not a conventional novel. It's just kind of this guy and his kid, and they're just walking around in this destroyed America, or it sounds like America. They don't really describe what it is, but it's not much of a plot. It's just more of it's more like thematic, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean...
It feels like a dream at points.
Yeah, he wrote the book right, I believe, around the time he had a new son. For those listening, Cormac McCarthy is like 80 years old, so
he's old.
I think he's like... let's see, the book came out in 2006. I think his son is like in his 20s now.
Yeah, probably.
But really, that's what it is. It's like a love letter to his son, and it's about being a father or being a kid, and looking at your parents that way. And the whole thing is about him, coming to terms with the fact that he has to let go, right, of kids.
Yeah.
He's gonna die, and his son has to be self-sufficient and fun, and that's what the entire thing is. That's why I really enjoy doing the read-along. Every time I do a read-along with a book, I read so much closely, because I'm reading it, then I make a video about it, so I really get, I start seeing a lot more of what's there below the surface, versus like just a casual read-through. And I read it when it came out in 2006. I liked it, but I wasn't really there with my reading skill, at the time, and I didn't really know about Cormac McCarthy other than he was one of the all-time greats. And so reading it again was great, and reading it that carefully, you could really see what he was doing for him.
Yeah, no, McCarthy's one of those you have to read a couple. I remember I read Blood Meridian about 4 years ago. I've read it multiple times since, but I remember kind of just being like, oh, this is something. And, he's one of those authors you have to read again. Because the first time you're probably not going to get it. But you'll get, like, an idea. But then as you read it again, and, I also had help because there's this lady I watch called, Amy Gets Lit, I think is what it's called. It's this woman, she kind of does what you do. She did these read-alongs. And that really helped me on appreciating Blood Meridian. Though I do enjoy Blood Meridian. Though it's it's a test of endurance, because there is a lot of twisted shit in that book.
I've only read it once, and then I started to read it, but I stopped. I need to go back to it and read it closely.
It'll stay with you. I'm actually wanting to reread it again at some point. Yeah.
It's touted as it's his.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Though
it's the greatest novel he's ever written.
Though I think the judge is a pretty scary villain. So
yeah,
He tends to be good at that. Like, a lot of people would be like, oh, where should you start with Cormac McCarthy? I'd probably say No Country for Old Men, because it's probably his most straightforward.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I watched a video where they were talking. I'm actually reading The Passenger, right?
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I own it. I haven't read it yet. I'm like, oh boy. You know.
Yeah, I got the two books that I thought that was like a but yeah, I'm reading it, I'm enjoying it, but I was kind of scouring YouTube a little bit for reviews. I didn't want to spoil myself. I remember a guy saying that of Cormac McCarthy light, like No Country for Old Men, because I think that book is said it's really accessible. It's more of a straightforward story. It's not like deep tons of metaphor and crazy symbolism stuff. Even though it's there, it's not as dense as Blitmer.
Yeah, I'm actually hoping this coming year. I actually have All the Pretty Horses. I've heard that's a pretty good book, so I actually want to read that. I hope to read it because I just completed Worse Angels from Laird Barron of his Coleridge series that he does. They're detective books. So I'm like, all right, it's my last book of the year because like I would feel weird.
How fast do you read? Curious. You seem like you go through a lot of books.
It depends really. Like last year was actually a pretty good year because I just was like, oh boy, I was on a roll. Like I was reading a shit ton. But when I'm like in the zone, like I read pretty quickly. Like it takes a few days from time to time.
Wow.
Or
I don't think I have it.
And sometimes I worry about that because I'm like, am I reading it carefully enough? Because I overthink this stuff all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? I think it depends on what it is, right? If you know it's like a McCarthy novel where there's going to be a lot of deep stuff in it, yeah, probably don't breeze through it. It's like a Jim Butcher Dresden Files book. Yeah, you can probably speed read.
Yeah, no, I mean, with All the Pretty Horses, I might read it more carefully because McCarthy's McCarthy's fascinating because he's not a conventional author. I had a buddy who started with The Road. I'm like, and I started with No Country and The Road, so maybe I'm not one to speak, but I don't know if The Road is a good place to start with him.
Yeah, I don't think it is either. I think that was the first book I read of his.
It's such an unconventional book. Like I said, it's almost kind of like a dream at points.
Yeah.
And my buddy's just like, oh, it's just unsteady and repetitive. And I'm like, I can see that. The dialogue's just him going, hey, he's like, what's up? And that's a bit simplest. He's like, we carry the fire. And he's like, oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can see how that might be annoying to read. But,
Exactly. But if you think about it a little bit more deeper, think that, because the one thing that's unique about that book as well is there's no change. It's one.
Yeah, no, it's a big sprawl. Yeah.
Right, and what I've read is that nobody really knows why he did that, but people have thought, well, it's to emphasize the fact that or it's to like put you beside these people, that their journey is a slog, right? It's miserable, it's terrible, it's repetitive, right? And I would say that same thing with the dialogue. That's what was so interesting about that book to me.
Uh-huh.
I could see, I was like, it's all the same shit. House, rifle through some stuff, they find some stuff or don't, then move on.
Yeah, no.
It was crazy. I said this before, but I had to sit back and go, what's insane about this is I'm still completely vested in the character story, even though plot is very repetitive, and to me that's just kind of the mark of a great writer where he can create this boring thing. So,
sorry, I was calling my cat. What were you saying?
Oh, you're good. I was just saying, like, you can. It's a mark of a great writer when you can have something like this where the plot is thin, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no master plot other than them going from A to point B.
No, I mean, I think
but then still be into it.
One of the things I like about The Road is that McCarthy kind of takes away the romance of like post-apocalyptic, media. I mean, Last of Us does the same thing. That's one of my favorite games.
Yep.
I don't know what you thought of the second one. I actually like it. I thought it was a very bold direction that they went in. Do I love every part of it? Do I love every part of it? No. But I like what they were going for. Did they succeed in everything? I don't know. But, it's also a very harrowing game. I don't know, I had to, sit back and think about it before I play it again.
I actually did a video.
Yeah, I saw that, but I'm like, oh boy, I don't know what he's gonna say. Yeah, I'm like, you're very critical, so I'm like, I've seen some of your videos, and you're just like, oh yeah, this is okay. I'm like, oh.
Well, I'll give you the short of it. I love the last, probably some of the best writing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Last of Us 2. Problem I have with Last of Us 2 is that, first of all, I mean, if you know anything about the development cycle of that game.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, I think that's what. I actually think that's what ruined the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say So here's the thing with Last. If, for example, for me, it was the structure of the story, how you play the antagonist, so to speak.
Yeah, I didn't love when we had to fight Ellie as her, because I'm like, oh, I like Ellie too much. No.
Well, that's what I think. So here's the thing that I would love to ask Druckmann, because I've never said it. So he was kind of playing with the format video game to make you as a player feel what they're going through. Similar to what Cormac McCarthy did with, hey, I'm not putting any chapters in this. I'm going to make it very repetitive because I want you to feel what these characters feel. So if Neil Druckmann, if that was his intention was, hey, I want to force you to play this person you absolutely hate, because I want you to feel by the end of the story that revenge is pointless and it's just going to make you sick to your stomach.
Yeah, no
good can come of it.
That's what I liked, is that it's about the cycle of revenge, and that the idea of what Joel did in the first game that had consequences. Like, there were people like, oh, they're saying that Joel was wrong. No, they didn't say that. They're saying, look, Joel did something. Was it right or wrong? That's a bit too complicated to answer. It's kind of like the end of Watchmen.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's too complex of a moral quandary to really give a clear answer to. But things are going to have consequences. Now, it does stretch my suspension of disbelief. How the hell did they find Joel? Out of everybody, does everyone just know everyone in this post-apocalyptic America? Don't know, but that's just a nitpick. But they weren't saying that Joel was wrong, and it's like some weird girl power thing that some people were saying on the internet. No, they're saying, look, Joel did this. He made this choice. Here's the consequences of that choice. And I'm like, all right, they're going for it. I respect that. They killed Joel in the most horrifically way possible. Again, wary of spoilers, I apologize.
But I mean, I think if you don't know that, but...
Yeah, if you don't know that by now, then I don't know what to tell you.
But, so here's the thing, with the way I look at The Last of Us, that from a storytelling perspective, you're looking at this strictly a storytelling perspective, I believe it failed. But, if you're looking at it from an interactive experience, where the creator of the game is literally forcing you to play an antagonist, someone you hate, to make you feel, not from a storytelling standpoint, from a literal, visceral, you're forced to play Abby 50% of the game because he wants you to hate that experience, like the actual experience of playing a game, then I'm interested. I don't know if that was his intention, but I would love to know, because like I said, I've never seen him talk about an interview. Another game that did this really well is Inside. It's like a small indie game, the guys that did Limbo. They used the game as a experiential kind of thing to make you question what it is like to control somebody, and it's almost like a meta experience, right? And so I think if The Last of Us 2 is doing that, then hats off to the guys' work, because I know everybody, when they had to play Abby, was pissed off and didn't care.
Yeah,
that's the kind of feeling that Neil Druckmann wanted to evoke. He succeeded, and if that was his plan, I don't know if it was.
But I think what's interesting about Abby is, and I pointed this out to people, is that she's not a cartoon. you could say. Like, there are certainly evil people in The Last of Us, like David from the first game. Like, that guy is just evil. Like, there's no real, question about that. But it's kind of like, okay, here's this woman. She didn't just kill Joel to be sadistic or evil. She had reasons for doing what she... Just as Joel did in the first game. I actually think she's a lot like Joel, and I think that was very intentional. Because their stories are very much like... It's very similar.
Yeah.
But as for the first game, I love it. I've played it many times. It's... again, kind of like... I brought it up because it reminds me a lot of The Road. It kind of takes the romance away. You're just like, good lord, this is just a horrible, horrible place to be in. I mean, it's still a great game, and it's just a beautiful story, too.
Yeah. I mean, it has one of the best endings.
Oh my gosh.
Game
yes.
ever. And, because again, it's playing with a morally gray area. Where, would you do this? Would you do Joel it?
Yeah, no, I have a lot of friends who are parents, and they loved the game. Because, really identified with Joel at the end of the game, because it's like, well, would you sacrifice your daughter to
save the world?
To save the world? And I've known some people who are parents are like, no, I wouldn't do it. Like, I would have done exactly what Joel would have done in that situation.
And so that's what's great about it. And Ellie, in the first one, tell this.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game all around. I enjoy. I mean, I know I've read some interviews with Neil Druckmann. He likes to say he likes to do straightforward stories with like interesting characters, and I think he did that with The Last of Us.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about first. He was kind of he was being mentored by another guy.
Oh, yeah?
Whereas he didn't write the story. He had the guidance of a writer who actually left Dog. I think after that game burnt out, I fell out. But you can definitely see the difference storytelling. Second, he didn't have that excuse.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of games I enjoy. I actually played the Mass Effect trilogy like 2 years ago, I think, for the first time, which I really enjoyed. The third game is certainly polarizing. But yeah, I mean, I try to get into games with story, because, there's some games that are just... There are some games I play that are just, fun, like Minecraft, you can just create stuff that you want and kind of screw around, I like those games too, but, I like games with story, I like games with substance, and I like games that engage you, as well as a good movie can, or a good book,
Yeah, I agree.
Though I brought up The Last of Us because, we were talking about McCarthy, and he kind of, The Last of Us reminds me of something McCarthy would make. It just, I don't know if maybe Druckmann and the crew over at Naughty Dog were inspired by McCarthy, but I was reminded quite a bit of him when I was playing the game.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know what inspiration were about that.
Yeah, he's just
I don't know, when did it come out?
He's like, oh, you like that? You like this disgusting, miserable world that you're living in? Nice. And then, yeah.
Yeah, I would say that The Last of Us had more like world building.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Whereas the world building in The Road, which I love, it's understated, right? It's there, but it's very understated. Not seeing, these factions that are completely out. You know they're there.
Yeah, it's just like a bunch of people running around killing each other. Do you see the movie of The Road?
I did. I actually watched it after book for the second.
Every time I read the book now, I think of Viggo Mortensen and Cody Smith-McPhee.
Oh, yeah. course.
And I love Viggo Mortensen. He's a great actor.
He is.
Probably one of the best of his generation, I think.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
I mean, he's fantastic in the road. He just like, yeah, he looks miserable throughout the movie. I'm like, yeah, that's great, you know, because, God, it's just a freaking bleak movie. Though, there's some people who are like, oh, it's shit. One of my same friend who read The Road first, he didn't like it. He called it misery porn, is what he said. And I'm like, you know, I could see that, but I think it's very life-affirming if you really, you know, read into it. Because it's about these two, even if the dad is just kind of a dick, they're still trying to, as he puts it in the book, carry the fire. I find that really, maybe not uplifting, but it does give some hope to the situation.
The interesting thing about that, though, and I forgot it incorrect, so because I read the book and then watched the movie years ago, and I kind of, you know, it was kind of mixed up in my head, like what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But in the book, in the novel, the boy is the first character. And in the movie, the father is. So I thought that was a distinct.
Oh, the boy was the first character in the book?
Yeah. In the book, yeah, he was the first.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense because he's the one who has to take over, right? He's the one who has, you know, I'm a man. Even though.
Yeah, no, it's
for him bringing it up.
Yeah, no, it's really it is a very sad, bleak book because this world is almost is just desperate to I don't want to say to the point of insane. Well, yeah, the world is pretty desperate. People are eating each other. Probably the most disturbing part of the book is the spit scene, which if you know what it is, you know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't.
Which was not in the movie.
Oh, that was not in the movie.
No, for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. When it comes to children.
Yeah.
You can do much more in a novel.
Yeah. No. My favorite scene in the book is when they find that crew. They do a great interpretation of it in the movie. Garrett Dillahunt, I think, is the guy. He walks up, he's like, "Oh, come on, don't be a hard ass," and he does that like weird ass smile. It's freaking, oh my God, it's just disgusting.
Yeah, John Hillcoat directed it, and then he was also in, which is I watched again recently too, but the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. He was in too.
Oh, that's a great film. That's
so they like to work together, I guess.
I love the score too from Nick Cave. And
Fuck, man,
that's great.
Both scores are great.
Yeah, The Road is. But yeah, The Road is I think it's. I wouldn't start McCarthy with The Road. I know there's a lot of. I know Oprah will tell you that The Road is a great book, and it is. But don't start with The Road because you'll probably be like, "What the fuck is this? This is
yeah. Cormac McCarthy, he's definitely a divisive writer. Not everyone's like him. If you're into more mainstream fantasy, whatever it may be, even like literary fiction, you may not like it because he's breaking all kinds of rules.
Yeah, he doesn't
give a shit.
He doesn't use punctuation or anything like that, and it's just I think it's an interesting choice that he doesn't use punctuation. It's not that hard to pick up. You're like, oh yeah, they're probably just talking to each other when it's just like the lines. And also he just goes, that guy said. Yeah.
There's no quotation marks.
But, it's like you said earlier, we're just hardwired. We're like, oh, they're just talking to each other. Okay.
Yeah. It takes a little bit to get it at first sometimes, but once you get it,
Yeah, no, I think with but yeah, the Road kind of takes away like I said earlier, I think The Road kind of takes away the romance of being in a post-apocalyptic scenario and just kind of goes, all right, it would probably be pretty miserable for the most part. And there's other stories that do this too, but it's just it's just something that. Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're reading like, when a lot of people romanticize the.
Yeah, for some reason.
For some reason, I don't know why.
I've even been guilty of this.
But yeah, it's way bleaker. It has kind of a happy ending, though, or at least a
yes.
positive.
I kind of took it as a what happens? Because I'm like, I kind of want to see what happens after that. But then again, the guy at the end of the book who, takes him off, they do have kids, so maybe they're decent. But, you never know in a situation like this.
Yeah, you could argue that maybe.
But yeah, I thought it was more ambiguous in that sort. But yeah, no, it's. Yeah, he gets taken on with a new family, but you never know what's gonna happen. But yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the movie, I like that they're emaciated. They're just like dirty as all get out. Like even when I read The Road, I just feel gross and grimy. And I want to take a shower after it's over. Same thing with Blood Meridian. I read it and I'm like, God, I need to take a shower. I feel like I'm just covered in dust. You can just feel the grit coming off of that.
Yeah, which is, I mean, again, great writer.
Yeah, no, McCarthy's one. I like writers who can put you in a scene. Like that's what I try to aim for when I'm writing. And yeah, McCarthy does that very well. I like description.
Yeah, description's tough because sometimes it can be, but you need that McCarthy's really good at that. Knows to be overly descriptive and when to bit plain. And it's because it's funny. Him as a writer, he can be extremely detailed, but then also sparse.
Yeah, The Road's just like, here you go. He just gives you like the idea of what's going on, and then you're like, oh, okay. And then like Blood Meridian, it's super dense.
Yeah, like they'll travel from one location, go on paragraph after paragraph, all the cans of food they find and the random little things, and so it's cool to, especially if you're into writing, and cool to see like focusing on, hey, this is important for a reason. This is rather than step away the exact level scripted.
Yeah. I do know you did Gardens of the Moon from Malzahn. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I like to stick with like trilogies, or if I do like long series, either it's a story that's kept me invested for that period of time, or it's like something, like Dennis Lehane's Gennaro and Kenzie series, which is just standalone books with the same characters in it. But I generally just like to do like standalone or just trilogies from time to time, because I tend to just be wary, because I don't like to waste my time. Really, that's about it.
Yeah.
I take storytelling seriously. I take reading very seriously, and I don't like wasting my time.
Yeah, I always say this on the video, especially quitting. You'll never read all the books you read.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have this mentality, and maybe it used to be this, where I pick up a book, I feel like I need to get to, regardless of how I feel. And a lot of people are that way.
Yeah, I'm still kind of that way. I have to complete things, because or if I don't, I usually like, okay, I'll just read this again at some later point. But yeah. So I mean, I usually try to like scope out, like I usually go like, okay, what books sound the most interesting to me? Oh, these do? Okay, I'll just read them and see if I enjoy them. And just kind of go from there. I mean, I have a fondness for westerns, so I'm gonna read All the Pretty Horses. from Cormac McCarthy next.
Have you read any, I guess, but Donald Ray Pollock?
I have not. I've heard of The Devil All the Time. I want to read that. Book. I haven't seen the movie. It looks kind of weird, but
yeah, I would say
Robert Pattinson with that weird Southern accent, whatever the hell that was. But I didn't see it. I mean, great actor. I love Robert Pattinson, but yeah, I'm like, oh boy, I might read the book first.
Yeah, it's kind of cliche, but the book way better. Movie, I think the movie did the best it could with a running time, because it's one of those stories you can tell with Knock 'em Stiff, Donald Pollock testing the waters with these stories, because The Devil All the Time, exactly that novel, but all of the events are twined.
Mm-hmm.
So we have all these POV shifts and stuff, but everything makes sense, and it's, I don't want to say it's complex, but I guess for the small setting it is. Translating that to film, it probably would have been served better as like a series, maybe like 4 episodes or 3 episodes or something like that, because the story itself is just, it was too much for me. I'm not sure how I'd feel about it if I saw the movie first, but it's always weird watching a movie out, because it feels like the cliffs, right? It feels like the shortened version, feels like everything's going through fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I try to see the films first, really interested in, or I'll see a movie and say, oh shit, it was based on a book. I should look, because doing it the other way for me, just I never have a great with the exception.
What was that you said?
I was saying, I feel like with the exception of The Shining by Stephen King, which I feel not the film is way, way better.
Yeah, they're the rare adaptations that outshine the source material. With The Shining, I do love Stephen King, so I have complicated feelings. I think both of them are great for what they are. I think the movie does take more interest, takes the story in a more interesting direction.
Well, it's funny because as a writer, I look at The Shining, I look at the novel, and I say, I can see what Stephen King really appreciate. Spoiler for whatever Shining, but at the end, Jack has there's a glimmer of Jack in it, right? He's not fully mad and blows the house up because save his family, essentially. Mm-hmm. Whereas the film, it's literally just him descending into madness, and that's it, right? So on one hand, I can appreciate Stephen King. It's funny because I feel like as a writer, I would probably have written the Stephen King version, because I like the idea of redemption or whatever. Like there's still a glimmer of humanity left. Whereas the film is there's no glimmer of humanity. He just goes crazy and then that's it. But for whatever reason, the film it created a more of a sense of dread. It just was. It was again the take on storytelling where you're like, there is no hope, right? This is it. He's crazy, kill everybody, and
yeah, I mean, going into movies again, the interesting thing about Stanley Kubrick, a lot of people call him, cold and misanthropic and whatever, cynical. I don't think so. I wouldn't say that. He certainly plays around with cynicism, but I don't think he is one.
No, I don't think so. I think Kubrick he's like McCarthy. I mean, they're true artists, right? They want to tell the stories they want to tell, how they want to tell them, and they don't care about how people are going to see. I mean, The Shining, the film was a commercial failure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure Cormac McCarthy took a really long time before he started making a buck on his fiction.
Though, it's funny, because it's probably his most, mainstream, friendly movie, The Shining.
Yeah, I think too. But again, it's so well made, top to bottom.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I think that's for myself. That's the storyteller I want. Stories up well. I'm not follow. I just like write a story that I feel like I can write. And if people don't like it, they don't like it. That's fine. I'm okay with that. And I think that getting critical reviews on books really helpful, right? To see. I think the one thing that as a writer, storyteller of any kind, stand is that your stuff is not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You can't please everybody. Find your voice, find your audience, and be consistent. Don't try to bend to the will of a market or otherwise. Now, it's different if you're writing to eat. And like this is your gig and you can't pay the bills, then yeah, do what you got to do. Ghost write on romance novels or normal romance or something. But yeah, I don't know. I think and that's what I love about a lot of filmmakers. Sometimes I can see a movie or even novels, right? I can read a novel, like I just read a novel called Drive Your Plows Over the Bones of the Dead, I think. Really weird book, and it's one of those books you do a review on.
That's an interesting title.
Yeah, it's actually from William Blake. Because that's the funny you say that is that I read that title. It was like I get these letters. It was called say like, "Hey, this is on sale." I saw that title and I'm like, "Holy shit, that is a badass title." And I read a bit of the description. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll read it. Why not?" And I actually read it from beginning to end. I didn't stop it or didn't quit. But it's one of those books that I can't say I fully enjoyed, but I can at least appreciate what the author to do. And I think that's important to a lot of people forget about. It's like, yeah, you may not like it, but can you at least appreciate what the writer or the filmmaker, whoever it is doing something consistent, sticking to their guns, or, consistent with their voice, story they're telling. That, to me, is important. Keeping.
I mean, that's what I try to do as a critic, is try to find things to appreciate. I try to be fair, which is kind of hard sometimes because we're all biased. We all have things that we like. I mean, I don't think I'm a harsh critic at all, but, then again, everyone probably says that. I try not to mince words if I don't like something, but if I do like a book, I try to explain why. Which I know that's critiquing 101, but
yeah.
I try to be fair to every single book that I read.
What would you say is the last really bad?
Last bad book I read, The Devil Takes You Home from Gabino Iglesias, which really sucks.
Yeah, we were chatting.
Because I have it right here, and note thing. Because I was really interested by the conceit of it, and I'm like, okay, weird cartel horror book. That sounds interesting. Probably going to be terrifying, because, if you've read about the cartel, they're pretty scary guys. And there is some scary shit in here. There's some good stuff in there, but, good lord, it was just, it's not terribly written. The prose is pretty, okay, I can follow what's going on just fine. But it's so, God, there was a scene in there which I described. I think I said to you, because I'm on his Discord, and I also described to some friends of mine. I'm like, this might be one of the most cringe-worthy scenes I've ever read in a book. And I was about to just stop it there. And I was just like, jeez, it was that bad. It was just, it's not it was more just one of those things I just really hate more than this was badly written. But, just, oh God, yeah, it's just, it was basically trying to do the Breaking Bad thing without the setup,
Yeah.
Without what made it good, because the story's about this guy who his daughter gets leukemia, And, bleak stuff happens in, like, the first couple of pages. Like, what I said isn't a spoiler. Like, that's in the first page. Like, she gets leukemia. And he goes from, like, desperate father to just broken hitman. But it's just like that transformation just doesn't feel convincing. And just a lot of his lines just sound like whinging. Which sounds kind of cold to say, but I don't feel what he's feeling. So that's why I try to look for in books like, how did this book make me feel? What was this book trying to do? What was it trying to say? And, I mean, what the book was trying to say was pretty clear, but I just wasn't convinced by it. Like, take Breaking Bad, for instance. Like, we see why Walter White is at this place where he's like, I'm going to cook meth. Crazy idea, I know. And, you get 5... Now, maybe it's not fair to describe 5 seasons, compare 5 seasons of television to a novel that's almost 300 pages long. But, it's just like the character arc wasn't that convincing, and also the social commentary just wasn't good. So you're gonna complain about how America's fucked you over when you're murdering people brutally and, contributing to the cycle of violence? Like, wow. Wow.
Maybe that's...
Wow. Very, very big-brained.
Irony.
It's like, wow, very big-brained. But I don't sympathize with these characters. The one character who I do sympathize with just gets fucked over by the end. I'm just like, oh my god, this book just hates me for some reason. I'm like, I'm gonna give this to my local half-price books. Hopefully, I will contribute to someone who will like this book, because I didn't.
Yeah, I think, again, not every book is for everybody, but I think it's important to see if the intent was there. It's kind of like the film Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. So I can appreciate that movie. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it made me so anxious watching it. The way it was cut, the way the characters were, all of that, you're just you're just so tense.
Yeah, you're on edge. Yeah.
But you could tell that was the intention of the director. It works, right? Same thing, maybe this book I haven't read it, but like you said, he's doing terrible, terrible things, bitching about how the world's...
Oh, hold on real quick. Can you hear me? Sorry, my phone just went weird for a second.
Oh, that's okay.
Continue what you were saying.
Yeah, I was just saying, with this book I haven't read, you read, maybe that's the whole point. It's irony, right? You have this guy who's killing people and a terrible person, but then he's also bitching about how the world's terrible to him. It's like, well, therein lies the irony, right? He can't see it. We can see it as the reader, and that's... I don't know if that's the point. I haven't read the book, but
maybe
that's why I think, yeah, maybe that. Like I said, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a poorly written book that there's no depth to. But sometimes you got to think about it that way too, because especially if I don't like something, like I said, I really try to think about what did I like. I can appreciate this much of it, or I can appreciate what he was doing here. It just didn't land for me.
Yeah, it's like I said, it was kind of like trying to do the Breaking Bad. It was dealing with a lot of similar themes of Breaking Bad, like disillusionment, which, but it's like Breaking Bad, I think of Breaking Bad as kind of like what I think of how to write TV good, like this is the golden standard for me, like how to make a long-running story for television, at least in my mind. I'm sure there's, that and original Twilight Zone. But, and again, maybe it's not fair to compare the two, but it's like, man, Breaking Bad did the same themes in a much more interesting way, I thought. And, maybe he was trying to go for irony, because I I mean, maybe I just missed it because I mean, we're all human. We miss things. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just it wasn't convincing. Also, just the way he goes from A to B is just so sudden. It's like an afterthought. And it almost is like, this guy almost sounds like an unhinged lunatic who just was waiting to just go off on society for, screwing him over. And I kind of felt bad for saying that. I'm like, God, I'm a fucking asshole. This guy goes through the ringer in like the first 10, 20 pages of the book. But it's like, God, I don't feel it,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I there's plenty of books that I've got where, you look at the cover and you're like, oh, that's so cool, you read this and you're like, yeah, you start reading the book and you're like, ooh, the prose is great, like, I'm digging it. And then it just doesn't, man, what happened? What happened? It's almost like, I see this a lot with Cormac, keep talking to McCarthy, but I see this a lot with Cormac McCarthy copycats where they're trying to tell these, Southern goth stories.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty everyman kind of thing, and they're even trying to write like him. And it's like they just can't quite get there. It's not quite.
Oh yeah, and you can tell the book was probably influenced by Cormac McCarthy. He even name drops him pretty early on in the book, and I'm like, okay.
Like the author, he name drops the author.
Yeah, he name drops Cormac McCarthy because and there's a scene in the book where they're smoking together, and the other guy goes away. And then he looks at and then he picks up a book, which I ended up looking up the quote. It was Child of God, which is actually one of my lesser favorite Cormac McCarthy books.
Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't. I've heard it's really bad.
I mean, it just depends.
Then again, I try not to trust the general critical output out there, but I did hear it was really bad, and I'm not the hugest fan of James Franco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like.
It's funny how he. I don't like that. I don't like it. I don't know. It's weird. It's like you're crossing. When you're writing a novel and drop a contemporary book. In your book, it's kind of weird. I mean, I get the class, but
no, I mean,
I try to keep stuff like that out. But yeah.
Oh no, I mean it's a it's solid. It's pretty fine. The prose is he's pretty solid prose stylist. He's good at writing. He can write well. There's some good scenes in here. It's just I wasn't blown away by it. Not that I expect to be blown away by every book that I read. I know there's ones I'm probably going to be like, oh, I just liked it. It was fun, Or I'll read something that, usually books that I really love give me that 5-star on Goodreads type of book. It tends to be something that really, gets a reaction out of me, really sucks me into the story, because I like to engage with a story when whenever I'm watching or reading or doing whatever with it.
Yeah, it's funny, after reading The Road, I'm reconsidering my review book. Because like you said, it's always something that really hits you. That's immediately what you think of when you think of a great book. You get to the end and you're like, shit, that was perfect. But then I'm starting to think about other books that would I change it? That's the kind of the question. So,
oh yeah,
are there scenes, are there moments, are there parts of the book that I would be like, I could lose that altogether, or I didn't care for, and if I can literally look at a book and say, I wouldn't change it, to me that's perfect. Obviously that's resonant too, but I think that's how I'm gonna moving forward with.
I don't know. It's I try not to aim that high because it's like, oh lord, like there's probably anything. You probably find something in a road and be like, maybe he could have cut this out. Probably not, because
maybe that's the thing about the road. It's a lane book, very long. Yeah, I like I said that.
Then again, that book's not very long, so it's like,
no, it's not.
It's just, I mean, that was probably a bad example. There's big books out there that I could probably mention. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, McCarthy's like, he's like a living legend, so, whatever. There was an interview I saw of him recently, because he's like a big science guy. Like, he really...
Yeah.
Like, he really loves science. Like, that's his thing.
Yeah, that's coming into The Passenger. He's definitely, his there.
Sorry?
Physics. I was saying that his interests in science are rearing their head in The Passenger.
Sorry, I was talking to my mom. What were you saying?
Oh, I was saying that his interest in is showing up at passive. So.
Yeah, no, I saw he wrote an essay, but I've never been that. It's funny. I love science fiction, but I'm not a huge science guy. Like, Now I know it's probably not like a mutually exclusive thing to
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's plenty of science fiction people out there who don't really think about science all that much. Though, I mean, I love Cosmos from Carl Sagan, but that's about it. there's other science stuff out there I enjoy.
Yeah,
but,
that's a.
it's just like it's like I like English and writing stuff, and I don't know what. And my point was, I saw an interview he did with Lawrence Strauss, who's like this scientist guy, and he's from wherever, I don't know where. I think he's from like Kansas actually, but they were doing an interview. And God, Cormac McCarthy, he is a pain in the ass to interview, from what I've heard, because he's very laconic and just like he doesn't talk all that much. Like seriously, I was skipping through to see where he was talking, and like literally it was just Lawrence Strauss talking. I was like, good lord. That's just, oh.
Yeah, he's not a medium. I remember there was a hilarious tweet by Cormac McCarthy where he was saying, my agent is telling me I need to tweet more, so fucking. Because you can tell he's just not.
Yeah, I get the sense that Cormac McCarthy's just one of those guys. Now, the one he did with Oprah's fine, because, like, Oprah's a pretty good interviewer, despite the fact she's, yeah, I know Oprah's kind of a meme nowadays, but she is a pretty solid interviewer, and she actually managed to get him to talk. Like, yeah, well, there you go, And it's like his first interview he ever did, I think, on, like, television. Yeah. But, yeah, no, dude doesn't talk very much. You can tell he just does his own thing, he likes to hang out and, just do his thing, and that's just kind of his MO.
Yeah. Oh, I found the tweet. It's great. My publicist is on my case about my frequent use of this infernal website. He says engagement is down and so are metrics, something, who cares? There, I wrote a tweet. Are you happy, Terry? And it's funny. Stephen King replied, he said, I don't know if Terry is.
I love Stephen King's Twitter. He's always just... maybe you could probably say he's just rattling off on stuff, but... Man, Stephen King's funny sometimes, man. One of the things I like about Stephen King is his honesty. I've always respected that, both in his fiction and in like real life. Like, if he don't like something, he'll just tell you.
Yep.
That's just the kind of guy he is, And he's just like, if he thinks like I remember he was talking about The Shining movie. And he was just like, because he didn't like Jack Nicholson was Jack in the movie, and he's like, dude looks like he's crazier than a shithouse rat the first moment you see him in the movie. And I'm like, it's just like he doesn't, he doesn't give a shit. He tells you like he sees it. And, there's some people who that might be considered a bad quality by some people, but I kind of respect that. He's not just jabbering on, but
yeah. I mean, he definitely speaks his mind. He's notoriously hates.
Yeah, I think it's a bit more complicated than he hates The Shining, but he certainly he doesn't he doesn't love it. He doesn't love Stanley Kubrick's interpretation of it.
Yeah, which I get it. I mean, it's a very different story and kind of completely removes any kind of realm or aspect of redemption character. I get it. I disagree with Steve, but I get it. At least where he's coming from.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Stephen King is a humanist. Like, if you read his books, you get that sense from him. He does believe in human beings, and not like humanism and like the atheist type of thing. I mean, like actual, like someone who thinks human beings are. Jesus Christ, my cat! What do you want? You shit. Here, come here. There. Sorry. What was I saying? My cat here is... Gotta love him. I don't know if you have any animals.
Yeah, I got 2 dogs.
Oh, okay. But going back to Stephen King, but like if you read like It or any of his books, you get the sense that he does believe in the power of human beings coming together for good. As my friend Josh would put it, I think he's a romantic at heart. If you really, with all the twisted shit he does, really at the end of the day, like that's what he is. Because I mean, it is kind of the big point of that is that these kids, through the power of friendship, defeat Pennywise the clown.
Yeah, and I also love that Stephen King knows exactly where he stands. He said, "I am the McDonald's."
McDonald's.
He understands. He's not trying to profound create art. He's purely creating it. So even though I feel like there's plenty of his books that the realm of you can start seeing their meaning there. And I think that's important as a storyteller. You gotta know where you stand, right? Are you trying to say anything, or are you not? Because a lot of people will, write some garbage and that they're Stephen King or Cormac McCarthy or whoever it is. And when you don't know where you stand, that's really a bad place to be. So he freely admits he's like, I'm not a writer's.
Yeah, nah.
I'm the writer of the people, basically.
Yeah, he likes to entertain people, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't mean his works can't be beautiful at the same time, though.
Right.
There's probably going to be some people who are like, wow, I've never heard people say Stephen King's work is beautiful, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
But it can be. I really do.
The Green Mile for me.
Oh my God.
Was powerful.
I was just about to bring that up, like that, or Shawshank, or even It to that extent. And It, that's actually one of his good endings.
Yeah.
Or I think so anyway. I really like the ending to It, and 11/22/63, which I do think is his best modern book.
I've never read that one. Saw the show. It's alright.
Okay. No, but yeah, I enjoy, also enjoy, I also enjoy, like, my top 3 authors, like, that's always, tough to sit through. Like, it's probably, like, Cormac McCarthy, Ray Bradbury, and Alan Moore, at least right now.
Yeah, Bradbury.
Yeah, Bradbury's fantastic. He's the reason I'm kind of like wary of doing short stories, because he just did it so well. You're just like, oh my gosh. Plus, I'm just minded towards longer fiction anyway, so I'm like, I don't know, maybe someday.
Yeah, he was a voracious. He wrote like crazy. If you haven't read the Zen and the Art of Writing book, where he talks about his passion for writing and.
Like, I have not, but it does sound like a book I would enjoy. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great, even if you're not a writer, if you're a creative person. It's kind of interspersed with just little things throughout his life, writing. So, bits of advice. It's sort of like writing by Stephen in that regard, where it's not, it's not a manual best practice, but the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Alan Moore as well. Just, I love his work, though. He's probably my favorite comics writer, aside from, like, Robert Kirkman, maybe. But I love his... Like, I actually reread Watchmen this year, because I was like, oh, why not? Because I was talking about it a lot with some friends of mine, and it made me want to visit it again. And still holds up. Still a great book. It's still a book that I enjoy quite a bit. I generally don't. I don't like the term graphic novel. I think it's a self-conscious term. It's for.
What do you call them?
I call them comics.
Comic.
Or comics, yeah. But stop it. Cat's biting me now. But if there is a graphic novel, and I might get some flack for this, Watchmen would probably be it, because it's probably the only comic I've read that feels like a novel.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, I bet there's other stuff out there you could mention. Like, I read one called Blankets last year, which is also really great. I really enjoyed that one. Though I'm not big into romance, I love Blankets. It's a great one. Just in, like, a good, comic.
Okay, I've never heard of it. I'll have to look it up.
Or there's some people who really like Moss, and I like Moss too. It took me a while to... my mom... Damn it, my mom just texted me. That's why I just said my mom. What was I talking about?
Blankets.
Yes. I really enjoyed that story. Also beautifully illustrated, even though it's very, like, minimalistic. Or maybe not minimalistic, it's probably not the right word. Moss is solid, though I don't love it. Yeah, I'm more of a genre guy anyway. I mean, I've kind of just, I know there's sort of the genre versus literary type of thing. I've kind of just distanced myself away from that whole thing, because, like, I mean, you know what? I'm just going to read books that I'll enjoy. I'm not going to toy around with this anymore.
Yeah, I'm the same. It's always,
good books
it's always
exist.
Confused me. Yeah, it's always confused me how people, like, let's say you're a fantasy.
Like, people get really territorial about that stuff, and I used to be that way, and I'm like, you know what? I loved Oliver Twist growing up, Great books exist everywhere. It doesn't matter what dressing you put on it. Though, I mean, we all have the stuff that we like, so, there's the stuff that appeals to me, but, that's just, I like many different types of books, and, I think it's good for an education, Read a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What were you saying before I interrupted you? I apologize.
Oh, I was just saying, I said why people, he'll take like a fantasy and all their, why do you only watch fantasy? Of course, I guess I just don't understand how, and granted there are more fantasy novels than there are movies, so maybe problem.
Yeah, no, I love fantasy, but I don't want to read fantasy all the time. I would just get burned out. I'm taking a break from fantasy right now after completing the Baz Lag books, because those books are just, that's a lot, They're great. Though I didn't love Iron Council, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But it's like I like fantasy, but I don't want to read it all the time. I would just get burned out on it and be like, no. What other genres exist? And I'd just be like, here you go, my son. And it's like some, I like many different kinds of books. I have crime novels, I have science fiction books, I do have a lot of fantasy because there's a lot of stuff I like to read. Cormac McCarthy's in my bedroom. That's where my collection is. But I just try to read a lot of different books because it's just I have a lot of ranging interests.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's important. I think most people read. I don't read every genre, but I read.
I mean, yeah, you have the ones that appeal to you. I know.
Yeah.
I do. Like my home, if you want to call it that, is like crime, science fiction, horror, particularly supernatural stuff, and like fantasy, like that. That's where I feel the most comfortable.
Yeah.
But there are books like I also read a lot of classics. I read the illustrated classics of Oliver Twist when I was growing up, and I love that book. I love Charles Dickens quite a bit. So yeah, same thing with like Mark Twain and like Huckleberry Finn. I also like a lot of classics. So there you go.
Hey, they're classics for a reason.
Some of them, yeah. There's some that I'm just like, what the hell? Like Moby Dick. Have you read that one?
I haven't, and I don't think I ever will. I read The Old Man and the Sea recently.
I enjoy that book quite a bit. I know Hemingway gets made fun of a lot by a lot of like readers and writers.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends who make fun of him a lot, so I get it. He certainly was. He was a character. But I do enjoy Old Man and the Sea quite a bit. It's a pretty straightforward story in comparison, like Moby Dick, which is just this whatever the hell that was. I still don't know what. I have a same friend who was bitching about The Road liked Moby Dick, and I'm like, how the hell did you like that book? I'm like, how? I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I know Cormac McCarthy really liked Moby Dick. It's a weird thing too, because there are literary writers out there who like genre fiction. Like I have The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay from Michael Chabon up there, which is about the golden age of comic books. And then there's like a lot of genre writers, even me, who are inspired by Cormac McCarthy's. It's a weird thing.
I just think for me, I want to read fiction like feels right, regardless of genre. If it's empty, if it's just kind of like a popcorn book, really. So, I mean, granted, I love Robert E. Howard and his old pulpy stuff. So there is a realm for that, but I'd say generally I don't like the light. So whatever genre that is, I don't care, as long as that's some heavy something depth, more than what is page.
Yeah, no, I tend to like character stuff a lot, like character drama. Love that.
Yeah.
I actually, I was talking about Joe Abercrombie earlier. I actually read The Blade itself earlier this year, and yeah, it is kind of a setup book, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. The only reason I didn't give it a 5-star on Goodreads is because it was kind of a setup book.
Yeah,
and that was just kind of But all the stuff that was happening in the book, I really enjoyed. I was really quite fascinated by.
Yeah, Abercrombie to me was first. He was the first fantasy writer I read that really turned the genre head.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
The prose, the characters, it just had this grit to it. Yes, finally someone did it.
Yeah, no, it's there's I think what's interesting about him, he's good at capturing character voice very well. He also introduced one of my favorite fantasy characters, one of my newer favorites, Glocta. I love that guy.
Yeah.
you would think he's the villain of the story. No, he's just he's one of the main characters. He's this guy who's just been broken.
Well, I mean, he kind of that's the thing about that book is you look at him as the villain, but that's what's lacking a lot of see, particular. It's like, you have a quote-unquote villain, and you're like, yeah, you're the villain, get it.
No, I mean, no, what I was saying was he almost seemed like how he's introduced, he's quite sinister. You think,
yeah.
maybe he's the villain of the story. And no, I wouldn't say he is. I don't, he's not villainous at heart. He's just...
No, he was broken.
Yeah, he was tortured and maimed beyond comprehension. And it sort of just left him a jaded mess.
Yeah. I mean, those are the best characters.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of...
If someone's evil to be evil, it's no...
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Tyrion from Game of Thrones, which I enjoy that series quite a bit. Though George has not finished the books. Also, the show's ending was just... Oh. But I digress.
Yeah.
A lot of people compared him to George R.R. Martin. I'm like, my good sir, have you read the original Robert E. Howard Conan stories? I was reminded a lot more of that, because I would say, I'd say Abercrombie is more biting than Howard is, but Abercrombie certainly has a lot of the same things that Howard did, if you really think about it. Or at least I think he did.
Yeah. I mean, all of these, they're all product of what, comparing modern to Robert E. Howard decades ago. Obviously, there's going to be a difference.
No, I mean, I meant that as a compliment, but
Yeah.
But I don't think George R.R. Martin and Abercrombie are similar, really. It's just that they're the only real similarity is that they take these old concepts and make them more gritty.
Yeah.
I mean, George in Game of Thrones, he's deconstructing epic fantasy. Like in this, like in Blade itself, it's more like he's, it's more like people just live. That's one of the things I liked about it, is it's just about these people. There's no chosen ones. It's just these people living in this world, and they're kind of jaded. They're kind of, the sword fighting guy. I forget his name because I'm always bad with that. I know Logan Nine Fingers. He was surprisingly likable and tender, despite the fact he's supposed to be like this just beast of a man.
Yeah, brutal killer.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It's like you said, it's a gritty story.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed that. Though Glocta was my favorite, because just like, is somehow very relatable, even though in any other fantasy type of story, he would probably be the villain of the piece. But in this, he's not. He's just bitter, and he's jaded, and he doesn't really give a damn about what other people think anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what makes a good... You have to... The quote-unquote bad guys, you gotta empathize. If you don't, then it doesn't... Right?
I mean, I don't know if Glocta's a villain. I haven't read farther in the first Law books.
I mean, you could. That's the thing about it, though. Is in life there are no villains, rarely, right? It's a battle of perspective. Someone has just a different perspective, someone else. So we view them as the... Right?
I think there are people who are villainous out there, but I get what you're saying.
Sure, but like it's all. What I'm getting at is there's usually a reason, right? Sure, it can be like sanity, like the Joker, right? But a lot of times it's experiences they've had, they've been broken themselves or whatever. So I think that that's one thing you need in a character. If you don't have it, then you're just like, ooh, I'm evil. I'm just evil to be evil. That's so boring.
Yeah, I mean, there are some that, well, I don't know. But I also just tend to kind of relate to those characters a lot more, just kind of people who... I've noticed I tend to like a lot of characters who are jaded and disillusioned, because I've noticed that in my own life. Not maybe I'm just projecting my own problems on these people, but yeah, I find I'm more interested in those types of characters because they're really interesting.
Right, that's what makes a character that you can have.
You know, I mean, I find a lot of the stories I enjoy are about disillusionment because, you know, there are things that disappoint us in our lives. And now, obviously, some of these characters have gone through a lot more than I have, but I can understand how they feel, even though they're not, even though not all of them are what you would call sane or stable individuals or people you should look up to. I don't think Joe Abercrombie wants you to look up to Glocta. I mean, God help us if he does.
No, that's what I mean. I don't think it's about that at all. It's about, hey, here are real people with a real problem. They're up at each other. That's it. That's all it is.
Like, I'll admit, I was kind of skeptical of the First Law, because, like, seriously, I don't know if you watch, like, Fantasy BookTube, but literally everybody, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people really enjoy First Law. They're like, wow, quality book. I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what you got. And I read it, and I'm like, first page, it's like a fight scene. I'm like, all right, I'm in. Show me what you got.
Yeah, it's like Logan tumbling through it.
He's so good with description, too.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he has great prose. Fantasy needs that. Like, fantasy has a dearth of that. There's not a lot of great writers talking about, like, there's no Cormac McCarthy's in.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's like, could you imagine if somebody constructed a great novel, but, like, in fantasy? Like, it's always about the world. It's always about the
we certainly would. I think we would be open to one. Really.
Yeah, I do, too. I would nothing more than love to read that out. Holy shit, these feel like real people. I think Abercrombie, you know, is the closest to kind of that paradigm shift. But for the most part, you know, you read a fantasy novel, you pick up Sanderson, you pick up Erickson, you pick up all these. You're like, yeah, I'm not really attached. Obviously, George R. Martin created characters that you could feel for, but a lot of them it's just like, yeah, I'm reading this thing, I'm so detached from it, I don't feel like I'm walking by these, feel like they're caricatures of.
I mean, there are even authors I like, such as, you know, Tolkien or Martin, who their books do feel bloated, even though I like them, you know?
Yeah, Martin's great, I enjoy his stuff.
His stuff feels kind of bloated at times, but I also enjoy Martin because
Abercrombie is like what I like about Abercrombie. He's a lean writer.
He's crisp.
I mean, he's lean. It's punchy. He's got a great ivory character. That's what I love about his stuff. I don't even remember what the book's about. I remember the characters, and that is especially when you think about movies and stuff too.
What was the fencer's name?
Indiana Jones, right?
I forget. What's the fencer's name in First Law?
Oh man, it's been years. It's probably been at least a decade since I've.
And you know, it's funny because I would generally hate characters like that guy. He's like I forget his name, but I know who he is.
He was like in love with a woman.
Yeah, he was in love. He felt I'm just like, God, this guy's gonna be a smug prick, and I hate this guy. But no, he's like really relatable, and he has like a bunch of shit he's going through in his life, and you're like, yeah, I relate to this guy, you know? It's like
that's what I mean. Those are the kind of characters we need, where fantasy is filled, and maybe it's because that's why they read. They want to escape. They don't want realistic problems and realistic people. I do. I mean, this is what I want. Clearly, he's had success, so maybe people just need more of it. I don't. Even after he started writing, I don't feel like anyone has come.
Luthor. I just picked up my copy of the Blade itself. His name's Luthor.
Oh, you found him?
Yeah, Luthor is the guy's name. Or Giselle. I don't know why he's called that.
Oh yeah, Giselle. Damn.
Yeah, I forgot his name. He fell in love with the Major's sister, which I thought was actually really fascinating. I'm like, oh wow. No, I mean, yeah, certainly it's kind of cliched. The bad boy kind of cliche being redeemed by love or whatever. But they actually play it really well. It's just, you know.
Yeah.
He's still, I love how he's like, what are these things, these feelings that I have? He's almost like a kid. He's just like, oh, jeez, you know. He's like...
I need to read it again. It's been so long. I feel like I revisit it.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed First Law, though. It didn't get the almighty 5-star because, again, a lot of setup in that book.
Yeah, well, it is part of a trilogy.
Yeah, no, but it made me want to read the next one. I want to see what happens next. So you succeeded.
Well, there you go.
But you know, it's like I kind of that is sort of a pet peeve. The setup book, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, he does it so well. I'm just like, God, you know. Shit, if he wrote Conan Barbarian fan fiction, I would be there on day one. I'd read that. I think he would do very well with that. I wouldn't be surprised if he enjoyed Conan Barbarian.
Oh yeah, he had. I haven't listened to a lot of it, but
yeah, no, it's but yeah, no, Glock is my favorite character though, because I don't know, he's so sad, and he's very relatable because he's not likable. But he's a very relatable character. You can understand you can understand him. Because, like, good lord, he always describes that his leg is always all fucked up. It's just, oh my god. It's kind of like Tyrion. You feel bad for him, but you're just like, Jesus. He's kind of like, it's kind of like if Jaime, with the wit of Tyrion. I kind of like to describe him like that to some people.
Yeah.
I joined it was one of those nice books where the hype was warranted, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to revisit first.
But yeah, you know, I wanted to, you know, Malazan was you know, I've been really hesitant to read that because there's like 10 books, and I've heard the first one is just fucking. I mean, pardon my French, but I heard the first book is just. He's throwing so much shit at you. You're just.
Yeah, I didn't finish it, so you can know how I feel.
Yeah, you didn't finish it. Go with that clickbaity. That clickbaity.
Yeah.
I quit Gardens of the Moon.
Yeah, it's all set up. It's all a lot of big stuff happening. So you'll have these massive events happening, but you don't really give a shit because you're not invested in the character. So it all just feels like I actually tried to. I had the audio too. You know what? After I made that video, I was like, well, because a lot of people are like, dude, you got to read this cycle. So
I hate that shit. Wait till the second book. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
I have to.
Let me. What's that?
No, I hate that shit when people go, wait till the second book. It gets better. It's like, dude. I have to go through this crap to get to something good?
I know. That I talk about that in the video, but also I said, you know what, let me just breeze through the audiobook, just get to the end of it, and I couldn't even do that. I was listening to it and I was like, I don't give a shit about anybody or any of this stuff, so I can't do it.
Yeah, no. Like, fantasy is, for me, it's such a weird thing. It's like, what do I want? And I'm like, in terms of the fantastical, like, what do I like? Well, I do like action-adventure stuff, but it's sometimes hard. It's like, what do you like in fantasy? Because sometimes I'm kind of critical of the fact that I'm not really so focused on, like, character. And don't get me wrong, I think a well-constructed world's cool, but if you don't make it come to life, then, like, what's the point of it all?
That was kind of a problem for me with Black. a really rich world. I was really impressed with the world building.
Are you being sarcastic?
No. I'm
No.
serious. Like, I think the world building in the Black Thief, it's deep. It feels real, but I don't give a shit about the character, so it kind of falls flat. It starts to feel like I'm reading a history book. Cool, man. I'm glad you figured out this card game, the rules of card game. It doesn't character.
Yeah, I try not to do first person because there's some books that do it. Like, there's books that do it well, of course, but yeah, don't know about that. And yeah, there's just some books out there that just don't do it for you. I mean, yeah, Erickson is. I've also heard Erickson has a habit of like commenting on like reviews of his books. You're like, oh boy, that's never that's never a good look.
Oh, I didn't know about that. Yeah, he's pretty accessible though, which is cool. Like I've seen him on some interviews of smaller YouTube, so it's not like you have to have a massive channel to interview. Clearly, I'll probably.
Yeah, you just go like, so I didn't like your book, but why?
Yeah.
But
well, let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk.
It's funny because I would love for someone. Yeah. Somebody read my book. Like I was on a podcast interview last week, and the girl, she always reads the books of people. She's like, yeah, it was really well written, but she's coming from like she writes stuff. So
she writes what? You cut out
paranormal romance.
Oh, okay.
So she's in a very different state. What I'm trying to do, and it was nice because she was kind of saying without. She didn't really like it, didn't care for it. I'm like, no, tell me more. Like, I'm really interested to see people's why they. So I think that's a quality you need as someone putting whatever you're putting out there, right? You gotta like at least be open to criticism. Why?
Well, yeah,
Daniel Greene. Have you read any of his books?
I have not, but I want to because I'm a big fan of his channel.
They're not good. Not good.
They're not good?
I've read both of them, and they're not good.
Is it just like a not for you, or is it just like, wow, this just made me not like it?
No, it's not. I like when I look at Steven Erickson, look at it and say, this is. Same thing with Brandon saying, this is not. I get how people could like. With his stuff, it's just poor. I mean, it's.
Well, he is just starting out, so I mean,
He is, but also he's been reviewing books for a very long time, and that's what I was hoping. Maybe he's really going to have, absorb some of these techniques, stuff from all the fantasy read, create something cool and unique. Even if it's not unique, maybe it's just cool. Yeah, I read both books. They're both. Not good. They're very. And what's cool though, I'll give the guy credit. So I was trying to be super constructive. And it wasn't just bashing. I don't want to bash stuff. But I did see he's got a Kickstarter out with a book, and he mentioned that he is going to. He hired editors to help him revise the book.
Yeah, no,
so I saw enough criticism where he's like, "Oh shit, I need to really work on the story."
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, I know I saw his video where he went like, so the first, self-publishing, maybe not a great idea. And I was like,
Well, I think it's a great idea.
No, it's
putting something out there that's like actually, good. I mean.
Or no, he's just speaking to his personal experience. I'm not saying it's like a bad idea in general, but.
Yeah. I just think he proved that. I mean, I kind of liked his channel when it came out, and he's too much energy. He's like,
have you seen his older videos?
Yeah, YouTube videos. YouTubers at some point in time, they're like, hey, and you're like,
have you seen?
Don't need the showman tip.
Oh, sorry. I was about to say, have you seen his older videos?
Oh yeah, I've been subscribed to him. I don't really watch his videos, and still subscribe, but
Oh.
yeah, his older videos where he'd like be talking like a human being,
Yeah.
not like a commentator.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mind, I don't mind him, being energetic, but yeah, I watched him before he got, I subscribed to him just before he got, really big, and it just threw me in a whiplash when you see it from where he was to where he is now, and it's really, I enjoy it. I still watch his videos, but. And
yeah, I wish him all the luck. I think it's awesome. Create their business platform for it.
No, what I think is funny is what's the other God? No, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I was talking about Daniel Greene, and you mentioned something. What were you saying?
I don't know which part. I was talking about how I don't care for his energy now. I just don't like showmanship.
Yeah, no, I get you.
People into.
I'm the same way. Though I like Daniel Greene. There's some of his videos. I liked his Brandon Sanderson parody that he did with a friend of his. I thought that was really funny. But
yeah.
Because, that dude is just, oh, man. It's another one I'm hesitant to try. Brandon Sanderson, he's kind of just, I don't know. He doesn't scream for me. I know there's people who enjoy him.
I say he's like the, you like the you, but I say he's like the you of, he's, I like to call it superhero fantasy, where it's all about the spectacle and the magic stuff. Unless you have cool characters, I like. And I have a video on I tried to read The Way of King. So I read Elantris years ago. I read the first ago. And then I said, you know what? What's all this hubbub about The Way of King? So I tried to read it, bought it, and I got through the prologue, maybe a little bit in chapter 1. God. So I made a video where I basically edited the entire prologue.
Yeah, no, I've seen you do that, yeah. and for the Order of the Phoenix, which I would say triggered me, but then again, Order of the Phoenix is a pretty bloated book, so I don't blame you on the editing part.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like removing stuff, it's just shifting. And I don't know. I did not grow up in Harry Potter age.
I didn't get into it till middle school, but I enjoy it quite a bit.
I was never I saw all the films, tried to read the first book. Again, it's not my generation.
It's fair, man. It's not everything's for everyone, No,
yeah, of course.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about your writing real quick because you've do you have? I think I've asked you this. I don't remember now, but it eludes me right now. But are your books in paperback, or is it just through the internet you can get them?
No, so I have. First one is not because the guy who did the cover design. The cover design. I'm not with anymore, so I never at the time I released on ebook, so that's all it is. I don't have the actual format. I might try to get hold of them. But anyway, the second two are all at paperback as well.
Okay, because I this might sound weird, but I like to smell the books that I'm reading.
It's funny.
I have a bit of a discomfort with Kindle reading, though. It would be more convenient because I do use my phone a lot. I am a 21-year-old man, so I grew up in the generation.
Yeah, I grew up before Kindle, so I enjoy that act, reading a paper book. It's just, like you said, it's not as... So I mostly read on...
Then again, I'm kind of the oddball out in my generation because I like older things. So, I like technology. It's fine. Technology is cool and all that. But it's like there's a certain pleasure from reading a book. like actually, getting it. But maybe it's just me waxing.
No. I agree.
Though I one of my peeves is when my parents go like, "Well, back when I was a kid," I'll be like, "Jesus Christ, no." No. He's like, "We actually read books with our eyeballs." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I do too." Take that, or something like that. I don't know. There's like, I used to walk down to the store with no supervision. I'm like, oh wow, good for you. Why won't you let me do that? Anyway, I'm getting off topic, but yeah, your books. I haven't actually read the what they're about. So what are your books? Just
so it's
moving on that
weird.
side
We're
tangent.
talking about genres, right? My first book is a literary. I would classify it as literary fiction or contemporary fiction, straight fiction. It's like a coming-of-age story.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's kind of weird because then the second one, I have a bunch of first drafts out there, and the second one I wrote is fantasy. It's only about 8,000 words, so it's more like a story.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of like, so I play role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games.
Oh yeah, I do too.
Yeah. So this guy, it's a sad story. Played with him, not personally, we played online, like a VTT, around a table because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And, but he died. And so
oh, shit.
His character and my character were pretty close. I didn't really know the guy in real life, but it was weird. There was this, I don't know, kind of a weird bond that we had, even though I'd never met him in real life and he wasn't a good friend of mine, but our backstory of a character. So I wrote this as sort of a, in memory of this guy. So it's a very short story. It's fantasy, which is the first fantasy thing I've ever published. And then the third one is part of a trilogy. I'm working book 2 of it. It's post-apocalyptic sci-fi. It's a short novel, though. It's only about 40,000 words, but that's the latest one.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. I am a sucker for post-apocalyptic, if our chat about the road didn't give that away already.
It's kind of, it's funny after about it, it is a reminiscent road. There's kind of this mother-daughter.
But, I'm kind of a sucker for post-apocalyptic stuff, so...
Yeah, well, I don't know, you might dig it. It's one of those books, though, that it's kind of, it's divisive, right?
I think divisive books can be very insightful. I think I'm quite fascinated by them.
But it's like I said, it's writing what appeals, obviously appealed to.
I do remember you mentioned enjoying Jeff Vandermeer a while back. I saw one of your videos talking about it. Or maybe I was because I like to do background stuff on people I like to interview before I before I do episodes like this. But I remember you were like, I really enjoyed Southern Reach, and then you were like, wasn't that great on Bourne, which kind of hurt me because Bourne's actually my favorite of Vandermeer's stuff.
Have you read the Southern Reach?
I have, yeah.
Wow, that
very good.
That trilogy hit me. I would say that not since I discovered H.P. Lovecraft at about the age of 12 or writer stuck with me.
Yeah, no, I enjoy I think Vandermeer is my favorite science fiction writer working today.
Yeah, here's my problem with Vandermeer. I think so. The Southern Reach is it's a human. Sure, there's the alien stuff happening, weird stuff happening, but it's a human story. When you get to Bourne, I feel like it's more of a commentary on how we're destroying the environment, and then it continues to get even more in that direction with Hummingbird Sound, where it's literally about stuff.
That's funny.
He's super passionate about that.
That's funny you mention that. I think Bourne is a very human story.
Yeah, it just felt more. I don't know. It felt more cartoon.
Yeah.
Like Southern Reach light.
But, you know, I mean, this might just be, like, a difference of what we like, but I like that kind of... that's why I like Vandermeer. He deals with the surreal. Now, I haven't read, like, Dead Astronauts, or... I actually have Hummingbird Salamander in my room, but I haven't read it yet. I've heard it's more like a straight thriller.
Yeah, exactly.
I have another friend named Jordan who likes him, and he's like... he didn't like that it was sparse, you could say. I heard the prose is a bit sparse in that book.
Which one?
Hummingbird Salamander.
Oh, I guess it's not like McCarthy's sparse, but yeah.
Oh, it's hard to get that. It's hard to get
really
that.
Loved Strange Bird. Did you ever read Strange Bird?
I did. I actually did last year. It was pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, me, that was okay. This is the Vander. Once Born hit, read. Born, I feel like is another one I should probably revisit, or just see what I think about it. But yeah, Southern Reach though. I mean, it really top tier stuff.
You know, I read the first two and I really liked them, and then the third one I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's different. I love that it's a human story. And
I liked Authority quite a bit. I really liked the inner workings of the Southern Reach world. Annihilation I really enjoyed too, because it's just going into the zone. I say the zone. It's a lot like Stalker. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Oh yeah, love that one.
Yeah, I actually saw it last year around this time because I got it for Christmas, and I'm like, I wanted to, because I was really like, because I heard a lot of people say Stalker's a great movie, and I saw it, and I'm like, so this is where Vandermeer got the idea from. But I do enjoy that film. It's a great movie.
Yeah, and Stalker's actually based on a novel by a Russian
writer. I read it. That's another one I think. That's another one I think that the movie's better than the book.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because the book's more about like the world that it's around and the people who are in it, and Stalker's more about the zone and human desire and what does that mean about human nature. And I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's
that's the science fiction I like. The big ideas combined with like human characters.
Yeah, I love speculative stuff.
Yeah,
Alex Garland.
Yeah, no, it's funny. That's where I first discovered Vandermeer was from the movie. Even though the movie is completely different from the book in almost every way.
It took me a while to appreciate. I went into it, hoping it was going to be, evoke the same feelings as it didn't. I had to step away and understand that Garland. It was his interpretation. He wasn't trying to adapt the book to a movie. He was trying to capture. He mentioned this in interviews. Capture the feeling that he got while reading the book. So.
Curious what they do for Authority, and I don't know how the hell they make Acceptance in the movie.
They're not making, or he's not. He's the kind of filmmaker. He's like, one and done. I don't do. So.
No, I mean if they made it other movies of the Southern Reach.
I don't think they will, because they kind of closed it up. You could definitely.
Maybe it's just.
I don't know.
It's more of like a me thing.
Yeah.
Just curious, and Acceptance is just. It's weird and it's emotional and it's kind of. I don't know. I don't know if all the things that Vandermeer did in that book worked, but I was intrigued by it. I'll put it that way. It was like what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Authority I really liked. I liked the spook elements, the spy stuff, nothing else.
It was interesting. Troll.
like once the zone starts to interfere with them, it's really creepy. I really enjoyed that. I remember enjoying Authority quite a bit, and Annihilation I enjoyed because it's such a weird thing, and Vandermeer is a great prose stylist when he puts his mind to it.
Oh yeah. I have some print privilege, Derek. Yeah, it was a hugely impactful series.
Yeah, no, I know it's kind of a riff on Lovecraft stuff, like The Color Out of Space. Not a huge fan of Lovecraft. There's some of his stories I enjoy, but just not for me.
Yeah, he was, Lovecraft for me was, like I said, another one of those writers that, when I was about 12 or 13, I played this game called Alone in the Dark on PC. Not the remake, but the original. And it was saying, like, basically, inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft, and there was something weird about that game that really just, I was infatuated with it, so I looked into who Lovecraft was. Yeah, that was the...
You cut out again.
Oh, I said he's just like a...
What?
You can't hear me?
No, I mean, I can. You just keep cutting out for some reason.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I was just saying Lovecraft, I don't write like him at all, but he was one of the authors that kind of, I don't know, it changed my perspective of fiction. Right? Wow, this is what fiction can be.
I always just thought his prose was obnoxious,
Well, yeah, but he's of the wrote in
well, yeah,
1900s.
Well, yeah, I know. I've read about his life, and his life is really fascinating if you ever read about it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I do like The Color Out of Space though. It's just a weird idea, and he just kind of plays with it. Even though I know there's some people who are like, well, that's not how color works. It's like it's fiction, guys. Good Lord,
exactly.
People want to deconstruct everything nowadays. It's ridiculous.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I do love genre deconstruction when it's done well, but my God, like everyone is just like, oh, this is what would happen. It's like, oh, that's not how color works in the real world. I'm like, can't we just have nice things? It's like, God, you're killing me. It's just, it's frustrating. Though, I enjoy a lot of the stuff that came after Lovecraft. I think he has been surpassed. That's probably a spicy take, but
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I think that his ideas are the bigger.
Yeah, I would agree.
Prose is difficult. I haven't really read anything. I want to check out that book you mentioned, but I haven't really read any modern, quote unquote Lovecraftian stuff that I've been, blown away.
Yeah, no, Lovecraftian is such a weird thing because I wouldn't say cosmic horror started with him, but he certainly popularized it.
Yeah, he was an influence on so many horror writers.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's the most tragic thing about Lovecraft. He never really had much success while now he would be very successful.
I did see you read a John Langan collection. I've actually wanted to try him. I've heard he's a great cosmic horror author.
The Fisherman is one. Yeah,
I want to read The Fisherman. I have a friend named Curtis who writes that, who writes cosmic horror. He loved it. He really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's on my list for sure. Yeah, I enjoyed the Wide Current Guy collection. Good overall. There were some stories that it worked for me here and there, but he did some pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I don't read a lot of short story collections because a lot of it's kind of the old the quote in Game of Thrones about the Targaryens. Gods flip a coin when the Targaryen's born. It's kind of like that with short story collections and anthologies of short stories. You don't know what's going to be good and what isn't going to be good.
Yeah, they all can.
No, but yeah, I have read short story collections, though. I actually want to read Ray Bradbury's The Illustrated Man. It's somewhere in my collection here.
Same.
Um,
I actually got to meet Red Brad.
oh, you did? I'm
Yeah, he
envious.
was having a signing back in 2003, 4, something like that. And yeah, it was great. Got to meet him.
Yes, he seemed like a very enthusiastic individual.
Oh, he was, when I was in a wheelchair, pretty weak, but he gave this speech talking about future generations we're going to expand and galaxy and solar, et cetera, et cetera. And he just lit up like a kid. And it was interesting to see that, like, him be this old man in a wheelchair. And
Yeah, I love his passion. That's really why I love Ray Bradbury, is
yeah,
his passion for storytelling. And I'm like, damn, it's one of those. I'm like, damn, I want a sliver of that, Yeah, that was his own. It's just everybody's passions are different, But it's Ray Bradbury is certainly someone I've wanted to emulate in terms of his just enthusiasm for the craft.
yeah. What I love about his stuff too is they're all very human story. So even though he's primarily a science fiction writer, it's all based in what we can all relate to. That's why he's a.
Oh yeah, my favorite of his science fiction work is The Martian Chronicles.
Oh yeah, I love that.
It's a great story, or it's a great quasi collection, kind of a novel.
Yeah. Weird. It's kind of an anthology. I guess it's an anthology.
Yeah, it's kind of that. Yeah. Also, like Something Wicked This Way Comes. Fahrenheit 451. I don't love it as much as other people do, but I do appreciate it.
Yes. It didn't really hit Chronicles did, but yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, yo, Martian Chronicles, that's where it's at, and I did talk about the pointlessness of genre versus literary and how territorial everybody gets, but one of the things I don't get is, like, why the hell Fahrenheit 451 and, like, Slaughterhouse-Five, why are those classics, and then there's, like, other great sci-fi out there that's just ignored, because I don't know,
man. I think sometimes it's a time and place.
Yeah.
Something's fitting at the right time, the right place, and get noticed. Because a lot of the classics, the quote unquote classics, they were doing very different.
And yeah, I mean there are classics. Right. There's classics that hold up today that I enjoy.
Yeah, 1984 for me still is.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I will say I think Brave New World is more terrifying in terms of like more like accurate to what I see. But 1984 is a good cautionary tale about totalitarianism, nonetheless.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Also the prose is really clean too, so that's always appreciated.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've read Brave New World. It is a kind of strange book, but it's one of the things. I don't want to get like political or anything, but like one of the things that bothers me is when people say that like we're in 1984, and I don't think so. North Korea, that's 1984.
It's hyperbole.
I don't want to. I feel like when people say that, it kind of makes 1984 lose its meaning. Kind of, little bit. Maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, but I think Brave New World is far more terrifying because
I agree.
It's not a big boogeyman. There's no Big Brother because in Brave New World there's no need for a Big Brother. It's us. And our ignorance and love for distractions and frivolousness, that's what destroys us. I think that's far more terrifying than any Big Brother could be.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know. I don't know, maybe I'm just blowing smoke, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I think, people like the Orwell. We're living in an Orwellian society. Come on. Not yet.
It's like, no.
Have you read I think you need to read them.
Need to read
because
what?
I'm not relegated to an apartment where I have to write in secret, stay away from the camera. And there's no thought police.
No, I mean, maybe there's like, they're trying to tell you what to think with like the PC crowd or whatever. I'm like, that's not really the same thing. Like, there's still critical discourse in this country, even if it's a bunch of people screeching at each other.
Exactly.
There is a lot of people screeching at each other, though. That's not good.
Yeah, especially on Twitter.
Oh my god.
Twitter's the worst.
Oh my gosh.
I'm on there because I'm like, I guess I should be.
If Orwell were alive today, he would just be he'd just be face palming, just like, oh my god.
Oh, I know.
Did they learn nothing from my books? I do want to read like some more of his works. I've only read, Animal Farm in 1984, which, those are the best known ones.
Yeah. That's all I read too.
I want to read like his nonfiction stuff. Like some of his earlier stuff. I want to see what he's got. But yeah, I like his prose style's pretty clean for the most part. Everyone's like, ooh, Orwellian prose. I'm just like, oh god.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the most about it stuff. Same thing with Arthur Conan Doyle. It's like they wrote a long time ago, but their prose is still very. Whereas if you read someone like Lovecraft, you're like, oh man, what is this?
What are these words that he's using?
Yeah,
Eldritch.
You have to really try.
What are these words that he uses? Eldritch and
Cyclopean.
Cyclopean? Yeah. It's like, what the hell? I mean, I enjoy big words, but he just takes it to a whole other degree. I'm just like,
yeah.
God.
McCarthy uses a lot of weird words too that I've never heard of. That's one reason why I like to read on the Kindle, because you can just tap it and give you a def. Because I don't know.
Yeah, no, McCarthy, he's weird, because he's not that hard to read, but at the same time he kind of is.
Yeah, exactly. He's not that hard to read, but every once in a while he's got to throw a word at you. What the hell is it?
His style is really odd, where you're just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, or, he'll bring up, like, biblical references, or in the beginning, I love the first page of Blood Meridian, because there's just so much stuff just in that one page. Like, he references, like, the Bible, and this comet, like
yeah.
Halley's Comet. It wasn't Halley's Comet, but it's something else. Like, it's impressive because he puts so much meaning into it. But it's not like, but at the same time, it's not like hard to read. Like, it's very straight. Like, this is what's going on here. Here's the kid. His dad's kind of a dick.
Yeah.
He runs away from home. Now he's in a tent. Then the judge shows up. Like, it's not that hard to follow, but it's weird with him.
Yeah, it's required a little more work sometimes, but...
I mean, I do... It's odd, because I like to read for enjoyment, but I like to engage with a book, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. To me, I always say to when people say, oh, that's a fun movie, or that was... What is... Fun is a very subjective... for me, fun isn't just spectacle. Fun is depth, like you said. Like, I got to engage with it. It's got to make me think a little bit, or question things, whatever it may be. Give me some new information that I haven't thought about. Like, that's fun. So I hate it when people say, oh, it was just a fun movie or a fun read. Maybe for you. That sounds like a nightmare for me.
I don't know if you've read any of like Neil Gaiman's work, but I also like how very Bradbury-esque without like ripping him off.
Yeah, my thing with Neil Gaiman, I love him as a creator, and I think he's a very creative mind. But again, it's kind of like Stephen King a little bit. Like it kind of like meanders and then just ends, and you're like, what? Like I remember when I read American Gods.
Oh, I love that book.
Love the concept, love all that, and it just kind of.
Yeah, I know the ending's weird.
For me, I don't know.
The ending is a little weird, but I like it. I think it's almost like a dream. It's kind of like how I said about. It's almost like how I said about The Road earlier. It is kind of like a dream at some points. But yeah, I like the way he plays with myth and mythology and whatnot. I do want to read his Norse mythology book because I love that stuff. Norse mythology, anyway. I love that.
Yeah, he does some cool stuff. But I've read a handful. I've read The Ocean at the End of the Lane. I've read The Graveyard Book. I've read Neverwhere. I've read American Gods. I've read. Maybe that's it.
Did you read The Sandman?
No, I never read Sandman.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I was kind of meant to.
Or at least I enjoy it. I think it's a fantastic read.
Did you see the show?
Oh yeah, it was incredible. Or I thought it was.
I was like, I'll read it.
Yeah, I mean, I like to read first. Now, there's some like I saw the Gone Baby Gone movie before I read the book, so I don't know if you read Dennis Lehane at all.
No, I haven't.
Oh, he's fantastic. I mean, I don't know how much you like crime stuff, but
it depends. If it's done well, yeah. If it gets too like in the weeds with stuff.
What do you mean, like in the weeds?
Like, I guess with a plot involving, I don't know, I guess when it gets too convoluted with, like I said, police procedure and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like when there's too much of like, hey, here's how the system works, here's how we're going to take advantage of the system, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm more interested in like, I love crime stuff, like True Detective. Season 1 is my favorites. I read Nick Pizzolatto's novel.
I'm hoping to read Galveston next year. Actually.
Galveston, yeah, that's a good one. That's the kind of crime I like. Simple.
I think you'll like Lehane then.
It's not steeped in, like, all of this, like, complex plot happening.
I think you'll like Lehane then. He is very similar to that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
To give it a go.
I hope to read Mystic River from him next year. I've heard that's a really like A+ book. Yeah.
Saw the movie.
You saw the movie?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Oh, okay.
yeah, like.
I'm not a big Sean Penn fan, but I maybe I'll watch the movie at some point.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Wow.
No. I do like Clint Eastwood, though. Unforgiven is a great movie.
Yeah.
I know it's it's like, what about the Good, Bad, and the... I was talking about, like, directed movies. Like, Unforgiven's the first one that pops to my mind. Have you seen Unforgiven?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Long.
I've also wondered if you've seen The Proposition as well. I know we were talking about John Travolta.
Have.
You have?
Yeah. I have seen it.
That was one of those wonderful experiences where I just kind of stumbled on it, and then I saw it, and I was just blown away.
Yeah, it was good. I love a good Western. I feel like there's Westerns that quite... I don't know, you have like the classical Western, like the old stuff. More modern Westerns, and The Proposition for me... That was a good balance.
Oh my gosh! I mean, one of my But yeah, it's probably one of my favorite westerns now. I really love that movie. I also like the setting. It's not like in America. I mean, the westerns are very inherently. Now I get it. Westerns are an inherently American genre, kind of like noir is. But it was fun to see a different perspective on it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I dig Elcoat's work. I mean, he just did. What did he do recently?
Yeah, none of his movies I've seen are bad. Like,
No.
I haven't seen Triple Nine though.
Lawless. Oh, Lawless was the other.
Yeah, that was pretty
That was
good.
okay. Yeah. But yeah, the road, the proposition. Great.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic. I enjoy them. Yeah. What were some other books I wanted to read this upcoming year? Oh, yeah, I know you mentioned you like Paul Tremblay. I wanted to talk about that real quick before I bounce off. If that's alright with you?
Yeah.
I actually read the cat. You know how you were talking about when you saw titles, you're like, oh my god, yeah, you know, you know, like you were talking about that one book. I forget the name now.
When I saw what?
It was that book, and you really liked the title.
Oh, The Cabin at the End of the World. That one.
Well, I was going to talk about that, but it was like what you were talking about earlier with the book with that title you really liked. That was me with The Cabin at the End of the World, and also it was pretty short, so I thought I could read it in a small amount of time.
Yeah, that one is short, good. Dang it.
That was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I'm like, wow.
Oh, you did read it. Okay. Yeah.
I read it. It's I got it because it was short. I'm like, okay, because I'll admit I am kind of a weenie when it comes to demon possession stuff. Those good old Christian values, you know.
Have you read? So for me, his crowning achievement that I've read it, Head Full of Goat.
I have not read it. Like I said, I'm a bit of a weenie when it comes to like demon stuff, but maybe I'll read it someday. I really enjoyed The Cabin at the End of the World.
Yeah,
it was one of. I really liked the title, and I'm like, I like the concept, and I like the title because I'm a sucker for good concept. And I mean, not really surprising that Shyamalan is making a movie out of it because. You know, he's a I can see how he might be like, ooh, let's make this into a movie. Though I was kind of shaking my head at it because.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read a few of his books. I've read Head Full of Ghosts, read Survivors, read obviously The Cabin we're talking about, and I've read something. What's it like? The Disappearance of Devil's Rock. That was probably my least favorite one, but overall, I just picked up a book of his today. Sale.
Yeah, I know you put a new one out.
Paul Bear's Club. Sale for like $3. I'll check it out. I've been meaning to read more of his. Another writer, kind of in the vein, is Josh Fuhrman. He writes kind of these. He did Bird Box.
Oh yeah, I actually like that. I like the book version. The movie version was
Yeah, exactly. The book was way better. But he's one of those guys that he kind of reminds me of Paul Tremblay, where create these interesting concepts. Sometimes they don't always land, but they're definitely innovative ideas.
Really fascinating. I think.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, I liked Cabin at the End of the World. It was very tense, you know, just really tense and suspenseful throughout the entirety of it. And I actually, there were people who were like, oh, it was great up until the ending. And I really liked the ending because it's
I did too.
It's just vague enough where it gets you thinking. I like books that make you think. You know.
Yeah.
Maybe not like. Maybe I probably wouldn't.
Head Full of Ghosts is like that too. It's like you think it's one thing, and then you're like, oh shit, maybe it's this other thing. I think that's why I like it stuff.
No, I probably wouldn't like something like Finnegan's Wake, for example. But I do like when books make you. I do like books that make me think.
Yeah.
Like Finnegan's Wake, I heard that just makes your head just go. It drives.
I can't say I've read it.
It apparently drives people insane who read it. So approach it at your own caution.
Wow.
I'm kidding.
That makes me want to read it.
Yeah, try and do a read along on that. Jeez, see how many people come along.
Oh God. Yeah. Like a 30 video series.
But yeah, Paul Tremblay. Yeah, I'm like, all right, I'll check more of this guy out. I don't know what book.
He's a good dude.
I don't know what book it is I want to try next, but I had a good time with Cabin at the End of the World. It's not a happy book, or I wouldn't say it's a fun read for those who like the popcorn stuff, but I enjoyed myself. It engaged me like the best of Stephen King can do.
Yeah, I remember like I read that book pretty quickly because it.
Yeah, it took me like 3 days to finish it because I don't know. I like to read chunks and spread it out because I'm weird like that. But it took me like a couple days. Like it wasn't that long of a read.
Yeah, it's under 3 pages.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you ever like read any of S.T. Joshi's stuff. He's like a Lovecraftian kind. He's like Lovecraft's. He's like a big Lovecraft historian. Like he wrote a book about his life, and he's done like a ton of other stuff. And like he didn't like Paul Tremblay's stuff, which I guess why he likes more like antiquated stuff from what he likes more flowery stuff from what I've gathered from reading like his reviews. But that was just one of those. I'm like, I don't know what he doesn't like. I think Tremblay's stuff is really thought provoking.
Yeah, I think that's great to see. Kind of. I don't want to call them mainstream horror or thrillers, but I love seeing authors get popular where there's some meat to it. There's some depth. It's not like a thrill read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's some people who might not like I like that the ending, like, it doesn't matter if the apocalypse happened or not. I don't think. I think it's that was.
Spoiling it for everybody now.
Oh, sorry, spoilers. I think the ending is trying to say like I don't think it matters if the apocalypse has happened, but they're just gonna keep going no matter what. I think that was kind of the point of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What did you think? Yeah, the spoiler.
Yeah, it was kind of like. Yeah, you never. It's open ended. You don't quite know. People were telling. And even like I said it's more about the repercussions of belief.
Yeah.
Where they can take you, where it can take you.
Yeah. Well, we've talked for a while. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
I hate to cut this off, but I have some other stuff I'd like to do today. So, but it has been a pleasure. I hope to have you on again at some point, and hopefully we can keep talking on Discord. Cool, man. All right. Well, just hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Check out Jason's channel. Jason, you want to say anything before this is over?
No. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yeah. If you guys want to check out my stuff, YouTube.
All right. Well, you take care, everyone, and Jason, thank you again for coming on. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
All right.